Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special Reap the Spoils. I'm Mark Sullivan.
I'm Delilah Lugo.
I'm Jason Kwasnicki, and I would like to
Don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't say what I think you're gonna say.
No. I was actually
I
trying
swear
to do a
God.
Christopher Judge impression, but it's not that hard. All you got to do is just stand there looking off into the distance
I was gonna
in
say
intense thought.
if any former presidents come up out of your mouth, I'm gonna end the episode now.
No.
This is a different Reap the Spoils because we're not spoiling a video game. We're spoiling a video game award show. That's right. This is how we end every year. We end on a fun episode, a bonus episode as I like to call it, just because it's different. It's fun. Anyone can listen to this one. You don't have to have played a game. You don't even have to have watched the Game Awards because like at the end of the day, you could just listen to us talk about the Game Awards and hear our highlights. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the Game Awards, Geoff Keighley's Comedy Power Hour that happened on, what was it, December 8th, 2022?
Yes, I believe so.
Sounds right.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So,
It was like 5 days ago. Come on, guys. We got to get it together.
If you haven't watched the show, that's fine. If you want to go watch the show, go ahead. Hear all the memes and the ridiculous events and stuff that transpired for yourself, and then you can come back and listen to this episode, or you can just listen to this episode. This is the one time I'm not going to scold you for listening to an episode of Reap the Spoils without having done the piece of media that we're talking about, because it's the Game Awards. You know, who cares?
Right.
And then the last thing I'll say is, if you're a longtime Reap the Spoils listener, thank you so much. Please make sure to rate and review the show and share it with your friends and your family and everybody that you think would enjoy the show, either on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you like. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Google, we're on everything. So please share the good word of Reap the Spoils. Are we ready for a history lesson of the Game Awards? No, I'm not doing that this time. I mean, the history lesson is Spike had it, they did a shitty job, and then Geoff Keighley was like, I could do this better. Geoff Keighley literally was like, anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything. Yeah, okay.
And the covenant was formed of the Dorino Pape, and there was Mountain Dew, and it flew forth, spewed in massive fonts of dewness.
Delilah, we should have taken bets on how long it would take Jason to bring up like a Dorito Pope joke about Keighley.
At least the commercials were of games, even if it was the same commercial at least 5 times.
Yeah, you know, the only movie mention really was of a video game related movie, and that was
Mario.
We got our first unabridged look at the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of that?
I think it was a commercial for one other movie, but that was it. I don't even remember the movie.
Well, okay, let me put it this way. At least there wasn't like some bullshit where they had like The Rock on camera being like, hey, Jeff, what's up, gamers?
Instead we had Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, that's not true. They did have... I don't even know if they showed a commercial for the show itself. There's like a Netflix Knives Out spinoff or something.
Yeah, you're right.
Daniel Craig and Ryan Johnson were just sitting there awkwardly.
First of all, oh yeah, there was. Well, okay. The reason for that, okay. Here's the deal. That wasn't a Knives Out spinoff. That's a Knives Out sequel called Glass Onion, which I saw in theaters, and it was amazing. But the whole reason they did that was because there's a scene early in that movie where Daniel Craig's character Benoit Blanc is playing Among Us in COVID isolation with like other pals of his. So they use that as a jumping off point to show, hey, you can wear his swim outfit that he wears in Glass Onion in Among Us, which yeah, that's that convoluted way that they connect it. Again, in my opinion, that's much more related than fucking having The Rock come on to talk about Black Adam, his energy drink, and the fact that he's working out right now. Which we all know Keighley has done in the past.
I've not seen any of that Knives Out stuff, so I'll take your word for it.
Knives Out's a great movie. If any listeners haven't watched it, go give it a watch. It's fantastic. All right. Let's start by talking about some of the award winners. I know we're already going off the rails. We're talking about the Mario movie. We're talking about the
Which
Rock's muscles.
y'all might be
Everything.
surprised to find out. After the great time I had seeing that first Sonic movie, I am very hopefully optimistic about the
Oh,
That
Mario
Mario movie
movie.
looks great.
I did want to hear Jason's take because he did unexpectedly, in my opinion, enjoy the Sonic movie. So
I don't know why I had such a good time with that movie.
it's a great
Jim
movie.
Carrey, man.
I didn't see the second one though. Yeah, Jim Carrey. That
Oh,
was a return to form for him in my opinion. As someone who like grew up in his heyday,
Yeah.
like to me that was like a return to form for
hey,
Jim Carrey.
we just talked about a classic Jim Carrey performance in our God of War Ragnarok episode.
True.
Uh, or I'm sorry, our The Mask episode with talking a little bit about God of War Ragnarok.
But
Um,
what's his Chris Pratt? I mean, I love Chris Pratt, and I was a little hesitant when I heard he was voicing Mario, but it didn't sound too jarring, and I actually I even liked better. What's his name? Always Sunny.
Charlie Day
Charlie Day, yeah,
as
as
Luigi.
Luigi. I actually thought that that was good casting. I thought.
See,
Mario's voice is growing on me too.
here's kind of where I'm at with Chris Pratt. Um, and I saw someone put this into words, and I'm stealing their thought because it kind of it helped me realize like how I feel about it. Chris Pratt is just playing himself in most of his roles, and it's just like kind of framed as no, but he's really this guy. And like to me, this just he's not really putting on any other performance other than Chris Pratt with his Mario voice, except for maybe a slight Manhattan tinge.
Yeah.
It's just not doing anything for me. Like I don't hate it, but I definitely don't love it. And I agree. Charlie Day's Luigi is really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing that articulated even more. Jack Black is Bowser. I don't really like Jack Black, but holy crap, he's selling me on Bowser.
I didn't even realize that was Jack Black.
Yeah, that's Jack Black. It like I can tell knowing that it's Jack Black, but he's doing a great job with that voice. I have a personal soft spot for Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she's gonna rock Peach. um yeah, like I am looking forward to that movie. I just like I'm very apathetic toward Chris Pratt playing Mario, mostly because I feel like they could have done better, like to just in
Yeah.
casting in general. You could have.
They could have gave the job to someone who isn't as famous that's probably going to do the voice
See,
acting better.
that's the thing though, is that they wanted the name.
That's my problem, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem I ultimately have. Like, why do you need a big name to play Mario when it's Mario?
Yeah,
He's one of the
Mario's
most
already.
he's one of the most recognizable characters in the world.
See, to us that makes sense, but to a movie executive that's like fucking 70, 80 years old or whatever, and then been in the business for almost a century and thinks he knows how it goes, they don't get that.
I'm not sure I totally agree, but let's move on from the Mario movie. I think we're all definitely still excited about it.
Oh yeah, the animation
And
looks excellent.
the last thing the last person I'll bring up who was on the stage at the Game Awards, tying this back to the Game Awards, Keegan Michael Key as Toad.
Yeah.
Another I do really think the casting was pretty spot on for this movie from everything we've heard so far. It's just Chris Pratt as Mario. I feel like they could have done better, or they realistically could have picked like anybody from Manhattan that would have given the exact same performance. Like it's just it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the winners. And let's talk about some of the losers of the Game Awards. We'll get to the what was announced and the things we're most hyped for toward the end. But let's talk about the winners of the Game Awards. Let's start off with the big winner,
Yeah.
and that was with it's really funny. Elden Ring won Game of the Year and
Yes.
Best Game Direction and Best Art Direction and Best Role Playing Game. Delilah, how you feeling?
That all makes sense. I'm very happy. It's my personal game of the year. Although if God of War got chosen, I wouldn't have been upset. Even
See,
if honestly Stray got chosen, I wouldn't be like, that's very weird. But also, ha 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 ha. Stray got
yeah,
game of the year.
we're gonna
Kitty game.
we're gonna get to Stray, because I do have thoughts and opinions on that. But Jason, how about you? Elden Ring Game of the Year.
I think it deserved it. I mean, a lot of people haven't sat back and realized, just looking at not even just the sales, but the amount of buzz that game generated amongst people. Like it's hard to really say this, because when you think about it, Sekiro won. From Software has already won a best game of the year with Sekiro, but even after that, FromSoft games, even ones as big as Dark Souls 3, were still kind of niche. There were a lot
Yeah.
of people who were hesitant to get in, but Elden Ring just seemed to have brought in everybody. The buzz was
Hmm.
out there on like every social media. Everybody was talking about Elden Ring, and the sales reflect that. It's a massive.
Yeah.
When you look at the graphs comparing them, it is a massive jump. So they really did, twist the formula just enough, and we don't have to get into the details of Elden Ring, but innovated the gameplay just enough to make it mainstream enough for everybody to get into it.
Yeah.
um, and it really showed in it dominated the conversation for how many months?
Yeah.
I feel like we just, now that we're at the end of the year, we're kind of past that and we're on like God of War, but hey.
Yeah, and I think that was a lot of not concern. Concern's not the right word. Um, the I guess just the mentality going into the show was that Elden Ring dominated the conversation for the majority of the year, but God of War Ragnarok was a huge success and had recency bias.
Yes.
Right.
So that was the convert. I mean, it was all look. It was always gonna be Elden Ring or God of War.
Yeah.
Just like 2018 all over again. In 2018, it was always going to be God of War or Red Dead Redemption 2. This
Right.
Yeah.
time, it's
Well,
either Elden Ring.
that was basically my prediction for the whole thing, was that it was going to be an inverse of 2018, where God of
Well,
War
I mean,
wins everything
it,
except Game of the Year.
it's not even. Oh yeah, well, um, and it was always bound to be that. Um,
For those of you who don't remember, Red Dead won basically everything except Game of the
Yeah.
Year in 2018. God of War
it did
2018 won Game of
it
the Year.
did win. Yeah, it didn't win everything. God of War, I think, got a few other wins, but Red Dead Redemption 2 did win the most, I believe, that year.
Yeah.
Just like this year with God of War Ragnarok winning most of the awards, and then Elden Ring winning the big one. Um, Here's kind of where I come down. So the God of or the God of War awards, the Game of the Year nominees were Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, um, A Plague Tale Requiem, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and Stray. Again, this was always going to be Elden Ring or God of War. The concern and problem I kind of had just like looking at these nominees in general, um, this shouldn't be a popularity contest. And this year especially, I felt like these nominees were reflective of it just being a popularity contest.
Hmm.
I I liked Stray a lot. Delilah, I know Stray hits you super right because you are a big cat person.
Yes.
I really liked Stray a lot. Game of the year?
No, yeah, I don't disagree. Like it
Yeah.
definitely was a popular game, and not to say it wasn't a good game. It
No, but
definitely had some interesting mechanics, some fun gameplay, and some really amazing cat animations. And it was like adorable, but yeah, it didn't like move the needle in any kind of way. It was just a fun little bite-sized experience.
and that's kind of where I come down on. Yeah, these nominees all just seem like this was one big popularity contest in a year where there were just a handful of really big games and not like a lot. Like 2021, I feel all the Game of the Year nominees were on the same playing field in terms of popularity. Maybe with one or two outliers, but this one is just like it's the two Sony first party games, the two big Sony first party games, the biggest game of the year, Elden Ring, a pretty high profile like double A game that was also heavily marketed and released into Game Pass. That's Plague Tale Requiem. Um, I guess the biggest Nintendo release of the year, because they have to throw one Nintendo game in there just to say they have a Nintendo game in there. And then yeah, the cat game that took over Twitter for a month. And again, I liked Stray a lot. I do think it was a good game, but as far as indies go, it wasn't remotely the best indie game I played this year.
No,
Um,
this is where I feel like Sifu got snuffed a lot.
I would say, yeah, I would say Sifu is one of the ones that got snubbed big time. That was up for best action game, best indie game, best and best fighting game,
Yeah,
which
which I
is
get. Like, it's not a fighting game, but
no, it's not a fighting game, and it's kind of ridiculous. That feels like one of those things where um there weren't a ton of fighting games out this year, and they
yeah,
just needed a fifth game to fill the slot,
Yeah,
so
the
they were like
fighting game,
Sifu.
the fighting game category is kind of weird because it's like when you think of like the big fighting game franchises, it's like a few that get installments. Obviously, like they get updates. Like I remember back in the day when I actually played a lot of fighting games. There was like Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter EX 3, Street Fighter, and they have all like
Yeah.
different versions of it. I mean, granted, you have companies like what is it, Arc Reactor, that make those like 2D ones. Is that the name of the
Arc
company?
Systems
Arc
work.
Systems work,
Mhm.
yeah. That will make like individual game, but like from my understanding as like somebody from the outside, um, that's kind of a difficult category to do yearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. When I was doing, because I did a separate like predictions pool with my former roommates, and like we did our first round was predicting who the nominees would be, and yeah, fighting games is one of the hardest ones to find nominees for potential nominees, because it's just like there were less than 10 fighting games I feel I found that came out this past year, and not many of them were well reviewed or good.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, you find there was one that was always going to be the winner, and that was Multiverses.
Mhm.
Multiverses was super good when it came out, is still pretty popular and is a lot of fun, and it was always bound to win to win that category. But it was like pulling teeth trying to find any more nominees to put in there that would have made any sense. And Sifu is just one of those that I'm just like, yeah, that you needed to fill a
Yeah.
quota, and you should have just cut it at 4. You shouldn't have added a game that's not in that genre whatsoever.
I feel like the people that work in the gaming industry just sent each other like a mass email, like, let's just for shits and giggles, because we love Sifu and like we know it's not gonna win. Let's just put it in fighting games because why not?
Yeah. But yeah, I guess we'll just cover the indie stuff real quick. Two indie games were my favorite games of the year. This was a really good year for indies, and
Oh yeah.
it's I feel like I'm reaching a turning point in my life where I'm appreciating indie games so much more, and I'm so tired of AAA bullshit coming out. Um,
Same.
and I know it's really bad for me to say that when we are a spoiler cast that primarily plays and reviews and talks about AAA games.
Hey, we
Um,
literally just talked about this in our last review. Go check out our review of God of War, or our spoiler cast, sorry, of God of War,
yeah, or
Ragnarok.
yeah,
But this was literally a topic that came up, so like, don't need to feel bad about it. I feel like all three of us, we're getting to that age where you like become a secret hipster.
It's just like, when you play games for so long and you play so many games, you just can't help but like want something invigorating. And indie games are kind of serving that. Even if you
yeah,
don't play a lot of games, the indie games are like really good. They're just straight up fun nowadays.
yeah.
Whereas
Um, I,
before they just felt experimental, but like maybe janky.
yeah. I want to go ahead and say, since Delilah brought up like Elden Ring was your personal game of the year,
Yes.
and you know, and it winning game of the year, like it is deserved. Um, while I don't think it's quite as innovative a game as a lot of people would say it is, it was it was excellently crafted. It was super well made, and I overall had a really good time playing it. That being said, I had way more of a blast playing both Neon White and Tunic.
Hmm.
And those two games, I can't decide which one
Tunic,
is my game
Tunic
of
is
the
one
year.
I to you. Tunic is one I've been meaning to get around to play. See, it's interesting with the indies because I didn't actually play any of them this time around. So for me, I was purely going off with my predictions, word of mouth, what I've been hearing about.
Hmm.
And it's funny because Stray was big for at least, to my ears for like a week. Whereas I've been hearing about Vampire Survivors?
Survivors.
I've been
Yeah.
hearing about that all fucking year. Like, I feel like everybody brings it up in some conversation at some point.
I think it
I
only
was
came out recently,
surprised,
didn't it?
or as long as it's been out, I don't know. I
Okay.
just feel like I've been hearing about it in like every podcast, even if it's not about anything related to Vampire Survivors. Somebody brings it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it came
Um,
out in 2021 for PC and then came to consoles this
Yeah, it was
year.
like an early access game, wasn't it? Kind of
um,
like how Hades was early
maybe,
access.
maybe it was early access. Steam is telling me that its release date was October 20th this year. But
Mm.
maybe that's like it's full like release, not like an alpha or beta or early
Yeah, because
access or something. I'm not
Supergiant did
sure.
the same thing with Hades, where it was like early
That
access and then
that's
release.
true. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is definitely true. Um, but yeah, God, Tunic was such a masterclass of design and just such a fun, refreshing adventure game that didn't just throw me like waypoint markers and objectives and stuff. You had to just figure shit out yourself, and the way it kind of teaches you what you have to do is just so intelligent. Um, I feel like it really didn't get enough attention this year. And
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, that's it. Go.
I was gonna say I didn't play it myself, but I heard like a lot of people saying that it's like just like a Soulsy Zelda. Would you
yeah.
agree with that?
I think that's so reductive. I mean,
Mm.
I don't like the whole Souls like descriptor. That shit drives me
Yeah,
crazy.
same.
I'm very tired of the very
It's also a
lazy.
weird. It's also a weird phrase to begin with because the Souls quote unquote formula takes so much from older games in general that Tunic is emulating in some ways.
Mhm.
That's like
Look,
the whole point of it. That's why people fell in love with it to begin with.
this might be a controversial take, and I'll preface this by saying I like From Software's games. I like Souls games. I don't think they're nearly as unique as people throw them out to be. I really don't. I like them. I play them. I don't think they're that. I don't think they're so special that a whole genre should be created around them. That's kind of where I'm at with those. So I think labeling Tunic as like, sure, that's a comparison you could make. I think it's just really reductive, and it's a game that should have been on more people's radar this year. I recommend anyone listening to go check it out. It's up there for my game of the year. Neon White's also up there, and that's just because Neon White was like pure adrenaline. That game is so
Mhm.
much fun, and I couldn't get enough of it. That's enough of my soapbox, though. We got to get back to the awards,
To the
Yes.
actual games that
to
were,
the
that were
actual games
nominated
that
and won.
actually won,
Yeah,
not the ones that I feel should have won certain
but
things.
I agree with Delilah. Elden Ring was my game of the year. It surprised me. I've played and liked From Software games. I never got in as deep as I did, and I'm glad
Mhm.
I did because I plan on continuing to. I mean, hell, we had a over 3 hour long discussion about the story. For all the people who
Yeah,
keep saying, "Why is it nominated for best narrative?" There's no story. No, narrative and story are different. We'll get to it, but narrative and story are
yeah,
different. And Elden Ring does have a story. It's just not told the way you're used to stories being told.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think of those six choices, Elden Ring is the best choice. I just think that the choices provided as game of the year nominees should have been a little different. Um,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have put.
I
Go
would have
ahead.
removed Stray and put Sifu in there personally.
I would have removed
Or
Horizon.
Xenoblade and Horizon. I would have removed honestly. Actually, you know what? Keep Stray because it's cats. Remove Horizon and Xenoblade.
Poor Horizon, my
I mean, I
man.
would have bumped off Horizon purely because I feel like God of War did everything Horizon did, but better. And a lot of the things that
Yes.
Horizon
You're not
that
wrong.
both of those games did, I didn't even
It
like all
did
the
bows
RPG
better.
mechanics. Huh?
It did bows better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think it really just feels like a popularity contest, or what what's the most AAA of the AAAs that
Well,
released,
it's worth
plus the obligatory Nintendo game and the obligatory indie game.
Yeah.
it's also worth mentioning like different spheres of gaming when we talk about popularity because when you look at the player's choice. Now granted, as I found out after the fact, apparently Genshin Impact was handing out awards in game for voting for it for best game for the player's choice. I'm not kidding.
Was it really?
Yes, and also
Wow.
apparently, like, it's a big, like, point of pride in China, Genshin Impact. So there are a lot of votes there. Like it's just like a national pride type
Well,
deal.
I
But also
okay.
Sonic Frontiers for a long time was leading that
Yeah,
list.
I know. A
It's
true,
kind
a
of great.
true, a true underdog story.
Yeah.
Sonic Frontiers. Um, no, Genshin Impact. I'm like, it's a really beloved game. A lot of people are really into it, not just in China, but worldwide. Like, that game is huge. It's really weird that it was nominated for Player's Voice.
I think it won.
No,
It
it did
won.
win. It
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
win. I just think it, like, the whole Player's Choice thing, or Player's Voice. It had like Genshin Impact and several other games that just weren't released this year, but like those games were like living games. So Genshin Impact is one of them. Like I think Fortnite, think even arguably Final Fantasy 14. Which, by the way, Endwalker not being nominated for best role playing game was shameful.
Well, that's the thing.
Um,
Just as I'm watching the awards, because I like to cycle through different streamers to get
yeah,
an idea of how different like spheres of YouTube or what have you are reacting to this. So many people mention Call of Duty, the whatever the new one, Modern Warfare 2,
yeah,
like not I don't think it was even nominated for best action, was it?
yeah.
No.
It was.
Oh,
It
it
was.
was for action and also for sound design.
Hold on,
I mean,
I should.
I guess it's kind of hard to do a first person shooter category on its own.
I feel like that. I mean,
Although this year there were a bunch of indies too that were first person shooters, weren't there?
yeah.
I think just Neon White, for first person
Wasn't there
shooter.
that music one?
Oh, Metal Hellsinger. Yes, yes, you're right. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was up for 3 different awards. It was up for best audio design, best action game, and best multiplayer.
But that peeved a lot because for a lot of people that was their game of the year. Now, granted, that's not my sphere, but
Yeah, but
that's a lot of
also
people.
I'll go ahead and say the people that play Call of Duty and probably had it up as their game of the year for whatever, that's probably all they play, because that's
Yeah,
how a lot of those communities are. People
it
that play
is
Call of
true.
Duty mostly just play Call of Duty.
No, you're right. You're right.
So, but with player, but back to Player's Voice, yeah, that I was, it was just such a strange thing for Genshin to be in there at all. Um, like, and like I said, it is a living game. It gets regular constant content drops and updates. Like, it's just, I don't know. I feel like it that award more than anything is a popularity contest award, because it's entirely player voted.
And apparently, Genshin was given rewards to players
Yeah,
in game
well, I mean,
in a
hey,
gotcha pay to win game. They're giving
I mean,
rewards
hey,
in
you
Pay
game.
know
to
what?
vote.
Good for them. I feel like it's the least interesting award anyway. Like I said, it's just a popularity contest. That one especially. Like, I feel like the Game Awards are largely a popularity contest anymore. That award is pure popularity. All right, let's we'll just touch on the fact that Elden Ring, yeah, Elden Ring won Best Game Direction, which again I expected. Best Art Direction, which I feel that one could have gone to the nominees for art direction were Elden Ring, God of War, Horizon, Scorn, and Stray. I feel like Scorn was an interesting nominee.
I feel
Um,
like of all of those, Scorn and Elden Ring had the better art direction, and I would even argue Sifu, but that didn't get nominated.
yeah, I was kind of surprised Seafood it wasn't nominated for that. Um, but Scorn, yeah, I heard someone mention in a other podcast I listened to, Scorn is kind of a weird one because it's basically just H.R. Geiger's work.
Mm,
So giving that best art direction is basically just handing an award to H.R. Geiger. Um,
yeah.
so I kind of get the hesitation there to fully let that one be the winner, but I don't know. Elden Ring had some beautiful art, but Scorn was just the more interesting choice to me.
It
So
was. The thing is, all Scorn had going for it was art direction, so.
yeah, that's kind of what I hear. I do want to play that. I haven't gotten around to playing that yet, but I do hear that it's a bit of a love or hate type deal.
Yeah, more like hate.
And then yeah, best role playing game, Elden Ring won, which I just want to shout out a little gem called Live Alive that guys, I would love to do an episode on Live Alive. I feel like that no one
This is
no
the
one would
one.
listen to that episode, but
This is the one from the '90s that just got like finally
yeah,
ported or
it's
not
a
ported,
it's
localized.
it's a 1994 SquareSoft JRPG that just got localized for the first time, officially localized for the first time. It is it is the reason Octopath Traveler exists. It's partially, geez, I can't speak. Partially the reason Chrono Trigger exists.
Hmm.
It is a I feel a super important JRPG. If not for anything, it's a stepping stone to even more prolific JRPGs from SquareSoft / Square Enix. So, um, fantastic game. I knew it wasn't gonna. Let's face it, I knew it wasn't gonna win Best RPG, but I'm still like, man, at least it was nominated, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
Um, let's go on to the next big winner, and that was God of War Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok won 7 different awards if we're also counting Chris Judge's. Oh, I'm sorry, 6. Am I counting right? Six awards if we're also counting Chris Judge's win for best performance.
Yeah, sure. I would roll that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about Chris Judge.
Well, let's not talk about him too much because he talked about himself enough. It was
For
like we had old man Al Pacino talking on stage for like way too long, and then Christopher Judge talked for like twice that amount. I was like, all right, this is the like old guy need to
All right.
talk and tell their story
yeah,
corner.
we've got Al Pacino talking about how
Some of the props I'll give for this award ceremony. Al Pacino deserves props for just being like, dude, I don't really play video games, but I'm
Yeah,
here. So
and it did make sense if they were going to get Al Pacino to come on stage and present any award, like it would be the one for acting.
true.
yeah,
And I'm glad that they didn't try to do that too much more. You get like arbitrary actors and celebrities on stage to present awards that they don't really have anything to do with. That's like the only major egregious example of that, and at least it was somewhat fitting.
yeah.
But yeah, Al Pacino's up there talking about his bad eyesight and how he doesn't play video games,
I mean,
but he's like
he's
acting. Now that's something I can do.
yeah, he's no stranger to award shows. He knows how to play it up.
Yeah. So yeah, Chris Judge wins best performance for his acting as his performance as Kratos in God of War Ragnarok. Justified?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay.
And like even hearing him talk, I'm like, you could definitely see he put heart and soul into it. Like it meant more to him than just a role.
Yeah. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I just wish he wasn't so high, and I will stand by that. He was high as a kite. Because
I
if I was that high, I would have done the same exact thing he did.
I mean, like I think he was either high or drunk. I honestly don't know enough about well, I know enough about being drunk, but I don't know enough about being high to be able to tell the difference between the two. Um but yeah, like, and there was definitely some emotion there. The man was clearly trying to
Yeah,
hold in some tears and hold in his feelings a little bit to
Yeah,
stay
just like Kratos.
just like great. He's still performing. Someone needs to tell him he doesn't need to do it
Yeah.
anymore.
I mean, my favorite part of the whole thing, the one thing that made that whole like agonizing, awkward. They even started playing the music at one point
And he just
sequence,
kept
and he
going.
just kept going. Was him awkwardly trying to hug Al Pacino as Al Pacino's just trying to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I mean, Al Pacino hugged him. Like he
Yeah,
didn't like he was cool with it. Um, but yeah, and he thanked all the right people. I feel, and he said all the right thing. His speech was very moving. It just went on for
when you
such a
condense
long
it, when you
time.
take out the silent pauses, which is why I
Hey,
say high.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was having. It didn't seem like he was just paused. It seemed like he was having a hard time putting words together.
yeah. Or we haven't also approached this from another angle, which is, and Jeff brought this up, was that maybe he was just trying to let more people win some Steam decks.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I didn't. I watched it through the Steam.tv site. I did not win a Steam Deck,
I'm
guys.
sorry.
I'm really bummed out.
Yeah.
I only had like a 0.000015% chance.
Yeah.
Apparently, there were issues with that whole process, from what I
Yeah,
understand.
it was a mess, but we don't need to get into that. But yeah, Chris, I don't know about you guys. I was talking to Jason about this before the show, but did you get the impression that Sonny was like kind of pissed off?
I just thought he had like resting bitch face.
Okay.
But
That's a good call.
he
Yeah.
when Christopher Judge was like, you know, I voted for you, like this should have been for you, but there's still time. He like smiled, so that's why I was like, oh, okay, like it's not the end for him, you know.
Yeah.
But you're not the first person that assumed that he like was upset about it. But I just think he has just that face.
Okay, it's possible. It's just, Jason and I were also talking about this before we went live. Is that I feel like the camera kept finding the worst moments to cut to certain people in the crowd.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
Sonny was one of the worst, and it's a shame because it was right at the beginning of the
Even
show.
even Reggie looked out of it at one point,
Yeah,
and then he realized the camera was on him.
yeah,
yeah. Also, maybe he knew Christopher Judge was high and was like, "How is this motherfucker gonna pull this off right now?"
yeah. That could be it too. That could be it. But yeah, I don't know. I actually voted for Sonny. I thought uh Judge was good, but I enjoyed Sonny. I think Sonny, his performance as Atreus was a little better, and personally feel that it was his time to shine. I believe Judge won in 2018 for his
Did he?
performance. I think he did.
Are
Yeah,
you sure
that
it
makes
wasn't?
sense.
Are you sure it wasn't the main guy from Red Dead 2?
Here, I'm looking it up now. But I felt it was Sonny's time. I was a little upset for him. I don't know if he was actually upset
Arthur
about it.
Morgan, whoever voiced Arthur
Oh,
Morgan.
you are correct. Roger Clark did win in 2018, so that's my bad. So yeah, maybe that this was a case of maybe it's Chris Judge's time to shine before Sonny can take it. 'Cause, I won't say any more about God of War Ragnarok, just because we don't want to spoil God of War Ragnarok in
Go
this
see our
episode.
discussion.
Go
What's
listen
up?
to our episode. Um,
I guess I just want to say, like, I agree with the Judge decision just because I feel like it's really hard to play someone who is like lacks emotional availability but was still able to like convey it without like tears or like much of a smile or like really expressive things, you know. He was still very unexpressive but showed this like very like nonce level of emotion, so I thought that was like treated really well from Christopher Judge.
yeah, I'm not knocking his performance. I do think he did an outstanding job. I was rooting for Sonny a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I was also kind of rooting for Manon Gage, who probably a game that most of our listeners haven't played, and I think only I have played
Yeah, no, I
as
didn't
part of this
play it.
panel. Immortality. Um, she basically stepped into the role of like four different people in this one game, and really five different people. Um, and she just did an outstanding job. And Sam Barlow's games, they always have these live action clips of actual actors playing their roles, and like he uses the footage and gamifies it in an interesting way. Viva Seifert, uh, who starred in Her Story, actually, I believe she won in 2015 for her role in that game.
Hmm.
Um, Here, I'm actually checking that right now. Yes, Viva Seifert won for her performance as Hannah Smith in Her Story in 2015. Um, his games are really interesting, and Immortality was no exception. And I think she did an outstanding job. So I was kind of rooting for her, but I knew Immortality wasn't going to win anything.
Yeah.
Immortality was nominated for Best Game Direction, which went to Elden Ring. Of course, it was. Or it was always bound to go to Elden Ring. Best Narrative, and her performance for Best Performance. We haven't talked about Narrative, which went to God of War Ragnarok. Let's talk about the conversation surrounding Best Narrative and why that was a little contentious.
Well, a
Jason
lot of
alluded to it just a little
yeah,
bit ago.
So a lot of Elden Ring like content creators have already made videos about this and have explained it probably far better than I can. But the basic gist of it is that the word narrative, and maybe the Game Awards need to like, I don't know how, but explain this better. Narrative and story are not the same thing. Narrative is the way in which a story is delivered. Story is just the grand sum of all of the elements of story, so characters, plot, what have you, setting,
So
whatever.
what I'll just quickly interject and say on the Game Awards website, for on each page for nominees, for each award, they describe best narrative as for outstanding storytelling and narrative development in a game.
That sentence doesn't even make sense definitionally. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just because,
it's
yeah, narrative is just the way. So like a first person narrative, it's being delivered from the first person. Third person narrate, it comes from narrator. Now, I think the reason this is unintuitive to a lot of people is because most people are just familiar with the same cinematic ways that and chronological at that, that most books, TV shows, movies, and even games deliver their story. But games are unique because they can deliver their stories interactively through other ways and means, and I think Elden Ring does that fine. And there are other games that do that great. The studio that got closed that made Shadow Colossus, Ico, all that, they do that fucking fantastically. In fact,
Mhm.
I would argue they tell some of the best stories ever in gaming because it is through the gameplay.
Go listen to our Shadow
Go,
of the
yeah,
Colossus episode.
exactly. So just because it's not the way you think a traditional story is told does not mean it's not a good narrative or story.
Yeah, and I think what Elden Ring does that's especially especially special is it it tells a story in a way that only a video game can, you know?
Exactly.
So, I
And
for me,
I was
that's
actually
like a one up.
secretly hoping it would win. I didn't predict it would win. I predicted
Mm.
God of War would win, but if I had to choose, that's why I would choose it, is for precisely the reason Delilah said.
See, okay. So the way I view Elden Ring's narrative is, and you're right, Delilah. It definitely does tell a story in a way only video games can, but it's kind of more, it's not so much telling you a story, it's uncovering pieces of the past.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That's more so what Elden Ring is doing. The story that it has on a surface level, I don't think is told well, and I don't think it's really interesting. It's that lore, it's that world building, it's everything that already happened that you're kind of slowly learning about. That's the interesting part. That's hey, let's put it this way. That's the reason our Elden Ring episode was over 3 hours long. We weren't talking about the story of that game or the narrative of that game. We were talking about the lore for 3 hours. And I won't deny it, like that's some amazing stuff. I really think that's some amazing stuff. But as far as the game's ability to tell a narrative to me, a story that's out, that I'm actively a part of as opposed to just learning about, I don't know. I kind of could see either side. um I did vote for God of War, I think, purely because it told me a good, like I wouldn't, well, no, a good story. It told me a good story, um and had me as an active participant in that tale versus Elden Ring not so much. But I definitely understand the side that you guys are saying.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say, like, I also voted for God of War, um, because the thing with Elden Ring is you can interpret. Like, there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of things that
Yeah,
comes from within you that the game kind of brings out in one
I
way or
mean,
another.
hey, we had
And
to implement theory rules for our episode.
yeah, exactly. Whereas God of War, you could come up with theories based on the story they told, but there's a clear path of what was told, which is why I ultimately voted for God of War. But I do think that I like that some games like Elden Ring have this kind of open story where you can insert your own thoughts and interpretations into it. It's kind of like a painting, you know?
There's
Hmm.
also the argument to be made that you have that story, and the lore and the setting and the backdrop is just one element of the story. The main one, the main thrust of it, is your personal gameplay experience. And there's
Yeah,
something to be said about that,
exactly.
because
Yeah.
everybody shares these experiences of encountering these bosses. But that's a whole. We could do like a fucking 3 hour long podcast about storytelling in video games.
Yeah.
Wait, are we gonna do a spoiler cast on video game storytelling? Is that where this is going?
Spoil. What are we going to spoil? How video game stories are told?
How does one spoil such a thing?
I don't know.
Um, we're the tune into next episode of Reap the Spoils to find out. No, I'm just kidding. Don't expect that of us.
The
Other
point I'm
things.
just making is like we could belabor this, but I think we already made the
Yeah.
point that like
Yeah, yeah,
Elden Ring did deserve to be on there, and maybe you don't like the way Elden Ring tells the story, but it does tell a story, and it does do it in a specific narrative way that
yeah.
maybe you're not
Like,
used to, maybe you don't recognize, or maybe you didn't even interact with. Maybe you didn't read any of this stuff in the game or
Yeah.
interact with any of those elements.
yeah.
That's perfectly a possibility, and it's designed that way.
And you know that is kind of the beauty of FromSoft games is you get out of them what you put into them, and a lot of times if you don't want to engage with the narrative, they're like, that's fine,
There's
just
still
go
more.
and yeah, it's like just go and kill some baddies and participate in PvP, whatever. We're not going to force it down your throat much,
Yeah,
and
totally.
that's fine. That's a fine approach. Yeah, I won't knock its inclusion in that category too much. It just was never going to win it for me.
Yeah.
And it didn't. God of War Ragnarok did, so it's kind of a moot point at
Yes.
this rate. Uh, God of War Ragnarok also won Best Score in Music and Best Audio Design.
Oh, I got a hot take.
What's that? What's your hot take?
So I've been listening to the God of War Ragnarok soundtrack, which,
Yeah.
because I was curious, because aside from a select few tracks from a select few moments I won't go into because it's kind of spoilery,
Mm-hmm.
um, I didn't really notice that much of a difference between the first game and this one. And I love Bear
See,
McCreary. I
I
love Bear McCreary. I love me some Battlestar Galactica soundtrack. But like, I
Jason
honestly felt like
single-handedly keeping the Battlestar Galactica IP alive in 2022.
I honestly feel like I wouldn't have given it to God of War simply because it's using so many of the same motifs and tracks laid down in the first game.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, I I believe I voted for that. I noticed a big difference, and I noticed a lot of new tracks, new songs, different things going on, different instrumentation going on, especially the way that he kind of evolved the Kratos' theme or the main theme of the game, and the way he evolved it so that every moment it hit that crescendo moment of the ba ba ba. Every time that happened, I got chills. Um,
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like when the Imperial March started playing subtly when like Anakin was like descending into
yeah.
darkness.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I would agree with that.
Or the way they slow it down on the piano when he
Well,
finally takes off Darth Vader's helmet.
that,
Mhm.
but even like
Yeah.
as he like is like starting to get dark, like when he like
Hmm.
I think yelled at Padme for the first time, they like played it very subtly in the background.
Yeah, it was done in Attack of the Clones. Wow, we're talking about the fucking
Sorry.
prequels.
Yeah, this is
Here we
usually
go.
Jason that does this. My
I,
bad.
I was talking about Return of the Jedi. I don't know what you guys are
Well, no,
talking
we're
about.
talking about what, like, I think I know what Delilah's talking about. In Attack of the Clones, I'm pretty sure I
Attack
know
of the Clones.
specifically what scene. It's the scene after he goes. Spoilers for Attack of the Clones.
After he kills the Tusken Raiders,
After he
yeah.
kills the Tusken Raiders and he's talking to Padme about what he did. Not just the men, but the women and the children. They're animals, and I
Yes.
slaughtered them like
Oh,
animals.
yeah,
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 that
yeah,
whole
yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
um
I'm
there
laughing
there
just
is
picturing it in my head, yes.
now you can put my voice over Hayden Christensen anytime.
Don't
Um
worry, Hayden Christensen. I hate sand too.
it's coarse and rough and irritating and it gets everywhere.
Exactly.
No, there's a during that scene after he talks to her, like they do have the Empire theme, Darth, like the music that plays with the Empire, the Imperial theme, the Imperial March. It plays very lowly at the end of his like whole tirade there.
Yeah.
And it's very subtle, but it's very effective.
Yeah.
Um
But to be
I
to counter and further my point, most of those soundtracks John Williams composed completely new shit.
Mm.
yeah, I mean, fine, but like
Hey,
you're
I'm just
right, you're right.
I,
But
it's just my opinion.
I think there's more original material in God of War Ragnarok soundtrack than you're giving credit. Personally,
Maybe.
but
That's why
um,
that's why I said hot take, because I knew it wouldn't be a popular opinion.
yeah. I mean, I think of the choices, I can't speak to Metal Hellsinger or Xenoblade Chronicles 3's score, but I will say I'm really happy to see Metal Hellsinger on there. I think that's awesome that
Me
that game
too.
got included.
I mean I played that game. I enjoyed it. That last boss, the way they used the music for the last boss, it was like composed with I forget his name from System of a Down.
Serge Tankian.
Yes, for Tanky. Oh my god, it was so epic.
I that's a game that's on my to-do list, and I'm really excited to get
Hey,
around to it and hear that.
and for what it's worth, if I want to fucking contradict myself and argue my own point, would I say that Howard Shore shouldn't have won his Oscar for Return of the King because he was using motifs set up in fucking Fellowship of the Ring? No, I wouldn't say that. So I'm a hypocrite.
At least you admit it, and I'm proud of you for that, Jason. um and yeah, I did hear Xenoblade Chronicles 3 score was pretty good, but I still haven't played. That's usually I try to play all the Game of the Year nominees.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm gonna get around to Xenoblade Chronicles
I
3.
can't get into that series.
See, I want to get into it, but I know how much of a time sink all those games are, and I haven't played any of them yet. So it's like that's the third of the series, and I'm like, okay, one day I'm gonna play through 1 and 2, and I'll eventually play 3, but I don't know when
Yeah.
that's gonna be. Um, I'll also go ahead and once again give a nod to a little gem called Live Alive, having a Yoko Shimomura soundtrack, totally reorchestrated and rearranged, and it's banging. Should have been nominated. Oh well.
Sifu
Um,
and Stray also had badass music.
Sifu did have a great score. Strays was pretty good. I did enjoy Strays music. Sifu I loved though. Sifu had some really great tunes. Particularly I remember in the first half of the game, they were especially bopping.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Stray had like that one Metal Gear soundtrack when you're like doing like a stealth mission as a cat, and it
yeah,
like kind of sounded very Metal Gear in the background. Metal Gear
yeah,
Solid.
it had some good synth music. Don't worry, I have the Stray soundtrack on vinyl
Of course you
pre-ordered,
do.
Yeah,
ready to go.
I was literally about to say
I haven't given I haven't given a vinyl update in a while, guys. I'm sorry. Stray is pre-order. Don't worry. That should be coming at the beginning of the year next year.
Yeah, for
Um
that one, I just want to say I voted for Elden Ring, but it's mostly because of how the music is like implemented and complements the environments, which then contributes to the narrative.
yeah. Okay. And Elden Ring score was excellent. I will say. I do enjoy that score a lot. Um I'm happy that my vinyl box set of that got fucking corrected finally.
Yeah, although I was a little disappointed they didn't have the Kaled theme song in the vinyl because that's one of my favorites. It's
It's
like
not
very
there.
like ambient.
I feel
I
like
don't
it's gotta
remember
be.
hearing it.
Maybe I'll double check after. I feel like they were pretty inclusive of everything. I actually cross checked every LP with the digital soundtrack that came with the collector's edition because I was that paranoid about how much they fucked up that release.
Yeah.
For those that don't know and don't follow vinyl like I do, the Elden Ring 8 LP box set, which means it has 8 discs of music. Um, they shipped a lot of box sets with duplicate sets of a specific set of discs, and omitted the set that was supposed to be in there in their place. So I was one of the people that got 2 sets of the disc 2s, and no
Yeah.
disc 3s, which was a major headache to deal with customer support because they did not want to correct it, or Bandai Namco I guess didn't want to correct it.
Yeah.
um they eventually did, so I have all the discs, but yeah, we'll check back on that later. God of War Ragnarok also won innovation and accessibility. That award, I feel like it was either going to go to God of War Ragnarok or The Last of Us Part 1. The Last of Us
Yeah.
Part 1, thankfully, only nominated for that, which
Yeah.
is correct.
Yes.
Because that game should not have been nominated for anything else, on account of being a 2013 game. But the remake did add a lot of accessibility features. Um, I mean, I feel like it could have gone either way. Sony's been really good about their accessibility features.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and then God of War Ragnarok also won Best Action Adventure Game, which it's the same stuff through and through. This was one of the categories that Tunic was nominated for, and I think Tunic should have won. But
I think on my predictions I put that this might be the Pity Award for Horizon, because I did not think they were going to let
no,
this whole thing go through without Horizon winning one. Just
no, action adventure
consolation.
across the board for us was God of War Ragnarok.
Was it? Didn't I say for one of them maybe Horizon Pity Award?
No, you didn't. No, none of us put Horizon for anything here. We all
Yeah.
knew Horizon wasn't going to win. There was no way Horizon was going to win anything. Not in a year that God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring came out. Absolutely not. So
Sorry,
yeah.
Guerrilla Games.
Better luck next time. Let's hope. Burning Shores comes out April 19th. That's at least a month before Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So I think it's somewhat safe.
You know, let's just use that as a segue, I guess, real quick to jump into, because that's what won most anticipated game, right? Right. How is that even like tabulated? Is that like a vote?
Yeah, no, that's one of the categories that's voted by the jury. It's that's the
Oh, it's
second
voted by the
most.
jury, not like
Yeah,
the
no,
player choice. Okay.
that is well, it's voted majority by the jury, and then like 10%
Yeah.
user votes or player votes
Yeah.
go toward. I think it's like 10% of the player votes actually go
Mhm.
toward these things.
I
It's a
just
very small amount.
I haven't heard anything about that game in so long. I was actually kind of surprised at one. I mean, even though it's a Zelda game,
That's the thing, is it's a Zelda game, and it's not only a Zelda game, it's a sequel to one of the most successful and popular Zelda games. Like,
Yeah.
it was bound to win that award, and I feel kind of like an idiot for being somewhat contrarian and going ahead and saying Starfield, that's totally gonna win.
no,
No, there was no
Starfield
way.
fucked it up with
That reveal.
that reveal. Yeah.
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 um
Well,
ye-
I don't know how much you can say they fucked it up, or people just had different expectations, but
yeah, it might be a little column A, column B. Like, that game was probably always bound to be Fallout in space. But I personally, I don't know that I expected more. I just expected something different, and it's not really what I got. And then Todd definitely ruined it by saying, yeah, there's like hundreds of planets and places you can explore and check out. And I'm like, oh, good. There's too much content in this game. I
Yeah.
am immediately turned off of playing it.
Yeah.
But I still thought, like, there is a good amount of hype for Starfield. I feel it's just, yeah, I should not have thought that would outweigh the hype for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
yeah, I knew it
Um,
would be Zelda or Final. I just said Final Fantasy because that's mine. I
yeah,
didn't even put
yeah.
it.
Let's go ahead
Yeah,
and say absolutely for Jason and I, at least. I don't know about Delilah. For Jason and
I
I, at
actually
least,
voted for RE4 remake.
that's your most anticipated game?
Yeah.
Okay. I am kind of looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna do an episode on it, and I'm sure it's gonna be a wild ride. But
y'all know how I
no,
feel about that. Not enough cheese. At least that's what it looks like.
yeah, for Jason and I especially,
But
and
we
we'll
will be
talk.
sure to talk about that when it comes out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk more about that shortly. But like Final Fantasy 16, whoo, hell yeah. Um, Okay, other games that won awards. Yeah, we talked about Stray. Stray won Best Indie Game and Best Debut Indie Game. Again, I know I already did my soapbox. I think that some of those awards should have gone to, or really, I think those awards should have gone to Tunic. Tunic was really, really special. I can't recommend it enough. Please go play it. It was so good.
As somebody who hasn't played any of these games, in addition, like after Vampire Survivor, Tunic is talked about almost as much,
Hey,
more so than
Jason,
Stray.
if you like classic Zelda games, if you like older, like
No,
more old school Zelda games,
I'm like fully aware of Tunic, and
yeah,
I was actually a few weekends ago looking at it at the store. I was thinking of buying it and playing it one weekend. Like,
I
it's something that I've been tuned into since it was first announced.
I really think you'll enjoy it. Anyone that likes old school Zelda will enjoy it. I mean, look, the game is called Tunic. You're playing as a fox wearing a green
Right.
tunic. The influences aren't subtle.
It literally wears it on its sleeve. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, So yeah, the way I've also been putting this is if Stray was good enough or deemed good enough by the jury to be a Game of the Year nominee, it was always bound to win the Indie Awards.
Yeah, that's why I predicted those. Even though I would have picked like Sifu and
Right.
I think maybe debut I picked Stray. I don't remember what else was there that I actually played.
So for our predictions, we all put Stray for best indie. For best debut, you and I, Delilah and I put Stray. Jason put Vampire Survivors. Again, because of what he already said, he had
Yeah.
been hearing a lot of really positive buzz about it. Um, so I will say though, I transitioning into another game that won an award. Jason is the only one that predicted best action game, and that was Bayonetta 3.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
Which I found really shocking,
me
to be
too.
honest.
Why?
Not that
Just because of the drama?
well, not be not no, not because no, if you're referring to the voice actor drama, no. And it's not because I think Bayonetta 3 is a bad game. I really enjoyed Bayonetta 3 actually. Um, but I do feel it kind of pales in comparison to Bayonetta 2 and even 1.
Yep.
And I this might be a controversial take. This might be a hot take. Bayonetta 3 has more in common with a Kingdom Hearts game than it does a Bayonetta game, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Actually.
It's funny. It's funny that I was the one who predicted this, and I'm the only one who hasn't played it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a huge Platinum Games fan. I loved the original Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2.
And Bayonetta 3 was a
Um,
ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. My problem is it stops focusing on technical combat and or not stops, but like leans further away from leaning or focusing on technical combat and leans further into gimmicks.
mhm.
Like right at the beginning of the game, you're able to summon and control massive demons, and they can just stomp the floor with most enemy encounters and stuff. And it's not hard to summon them. You don't have to accumulate a ton or spend a lot of time accumulating a ton of magic in order to summon them. They're really easy to summon. You can summon them
It
most of the time.
plays more into like the witch stuff.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it just plays more into not being a technical action game, but just being a action game where a lot of fun things and big things can happen. It just leans more into gimmicks than anything else, and that I found kind of disappointing.
I
Okay.
actually didn't mind that so much. It made it feel like the Godzilla game I always wanted.
Mhm.
But what bothered me about Bayonetta 3 is that they introduced this other playable character, and I did not like her. Like, her gameplay was so much more like not satisfying in comparison to Bayonetta, and they made you play with her pretty significantly.
Yeah.
And then even like the supplemental activities, like the challenges and stuff, just felt like stupid and not fun and didn't make me any better at the game.
Out of
Where
curiosity, which game did you guys say would win?
Um,
action,
Delilah said Sifu.
yeah, I voted for it and I wanted it.
I actually voted for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Shredder's Revenge.
I wouldn't have been mad at that either.
I thought that got a lot of positive buzz when it came out, and it had more of a recency bias than Sifu did. Um, so I was kind of leaning more towards that, but yeah, again, like, and yeah, Delilah, I think you and I have conflicting opinions on Viola's characterization. I will agree that she wasn't nearly as satisfying or fun to play as
Yeah.
Bayonetta herself. And the biggest problem I had with playing as Viola was she activates Witch Time by doing a block parry, which is mapped to a different button than
The dodge
Bayonetta's
button.
dodge, which is
Yeah.
what activates Witch Time. So switching between those two characters when the chapters that you play as either one became very difficult to wrap my head around. Like I'll press the wrong button and not activate Witch Time, and then I wind up getting hit, and it was just very frustrating.
Yeah, whereas like you play a game like God of War that you're switching between two characters, and like although their move sets are completely different, it still feels intuitive.
Yeah. Um So yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. I don't know that I have an issue with Bayonetta 3 winning. I do think really. Well, okay, sorry. When I didn't mean to say that I voted for Shredder's Revenge. I predicted Shredder's Revenge
Right.
would win. I actually voted for Neon White because I think Neon White is an excellent video game,
Mm.
an excellent action game that everyone should play because it's so much fun. But yeah, that obviously didn't win anything.
Can I just like make a quick like complaint that has to do with like an announcement as well
Yeah,
related to Bayonetta,
yeah.
since because I don't think
Oh,
any of us are really going to talk about it.
Well, no,
I think I know exactly
I
what you're
was
gonna
absolutely
say.
going to bring it up. No, I was
Yeah,
100% going to bring that one
I
up.
think we all know what you're gonna say. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Why don't we put a pin in that until we
Okay, yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
announcements?
That's
No,
cool.
don't you worry. I want to talk about that game. I
I think
absolutely want to talk
I think
about
we
that
all
game.
have similar feelings. It seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so as if any other game was worthy of winning these awards, Final Fantasy XIV won Best Ongoing Game and Best Community Support again, 2 years running. Hell yeah, let's
Yeah.
go. Let's
What other gaming
fucking
community will the producer of your game sit in front of a webcam and cry in shame in front of you for his failures,
not even that, but
which
like
aren't even failures? They're like, oh my god, we had to delay the game by like a week, and he just starts sobbing.
yeah, I mean it's like not even that. It's just like they're the community is for that game. I mean it's been growing astronomically the past 2 years and everyone's super supportive, everyone's super helpful. They're all very kind. It's like it's one of the most positive communities in gaming for when it comes to like multiplayer, massive multiplayer games. Um, it's really a testament to that game stature right now. And for ongoing game, like Endwalker was an amazing expansion. At least I felt so. Um, every update comes forth with a ton of new fantastic content. Yoshi P is doing like 3 live letters in between each patch, going over everything and listening to fan feedback, and it's just yeah, it's totally deserved. I will say No Man's Sky is kind of still kind of flying under the radar a little bit as something that maybe deserves some recognition for how many years that game has been improving itself and how long Hello Games has kind of been redeeming themselves for that launch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It deserves to be on there and maybe even win. I'm just trying to picture in my head
And to be clear,
what
No
that would
Man's
look like
Sky,
if
to be
Sean
clear,
Murray stepped out there. Yeah,
yeah, to be clear, No Man's Sky was nominated just for best community support, not for best ongoing game. Although I do feel that maybe a best ongoing game nomination wouldn't be unwelcome.
Yeah, I think I nominated it just because of its resurgence, but not because I actually play any of these games. But I think he did win some one of those two categories last year over Fortnite. He was like
No,
surprised, or was that 2020?
might have been 2020. Last year,
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 14 won both
Okay,
of
that
those.
year. Yeah, you're right. That year he was like drinking a beer and he thought like he wasn't gonna win. It was 2020 because they were doing the Zoom stuff.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense. Um, so yeah, hell yeah, let's go Final Fantasy 14. Um, are either of you guys playing Marvel Snap?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay.
mm
I with how much that game is blown up, I was not surprised in the slightest that it won best mobile game. Um I mean,
Yeah.
let's also put it this way, there was no way in hell Diablo Immortal was going to win.
Hi,
Yeah.
man. I don't play mobile games. I don't have a phone.
Jesus Christ. Um
That was a joke
I'm
that I don't think anybody's gonna
no, I
get.
mean I got it.
Oh,
I got
okay.
it. Yeah, okay. So because a comedy is so much better when you explain it. Um
Exactly.
there was when Diablo Immortal was explained or announced, Jesus. When Diablo Immortal was announced and they did the panel at BlizzCon, um people there was lots of obviously a lot of backlash about it because it was a Diablo game on mobile that was going to be free to play, heavily monetized, which is exactly what it was. And there a lot of people at BlizzCon were like, "Are you kidding? Like this is what you're announcing for Diablo?" And
Oh, you're making it
who
worse.
who
You're making
was
it
it on
worse.
stage? One of the devs, one of the people on stage representing the game
A guy
said, "What,
very
you guys don't have
clearly not
phones?"
prepped. Yeah, a guy very clearly not prepped for PR who was
Yeah.
just an excited dev. I kind of feel bad for him in retrospect, but whatever.
Yeah, well, you just made fun of him, so I guess the
It's a
joke's
meme.
on. Yeah. No, I know. But yeah, Marvel Snap. I really don't want to get involved with more free to play mobile games than I have to at this point in my life. But I do hear Marvel Snap is really good. A lot of people are really big on it. I'm not
Yeah.
surprised in the slightest that it won
Mm-hmm.
best mobile game. And then yeah, best VR. I'll just run through some of these last ones really quick. Best VR/AR game went to Moss Book 2. I feel like this was a really bad year for VR.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of games that came out that I've even heard of. Not that I follow VR like really closely, but um, yeah,
Yeah.
when I was looking up predictions to for nominees, I couldn't find anything more than Moss Book 2 and what was it? Red Matter 2. I was actually really surprised. I didn't think Among Us VR came out.
Mm.
But it was nominated, so I guess it did.
Yeah,
Here's a
VR's in that weird space where like I felt like when that Half-Life game came out, or did it come out? I don't
oh
remember.
yeah, that came out
Yeah.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
2020, I
and that
think.
won, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
100% that one.
yeah. So like I feel like that's like something. I don't know. VR's in a weird. Again, I don't have a VR headset. I don't play VR, so it's like I can't speak too much to like the quality of the games themselves. But it's like
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem is that it's in a weird space where I don't know what the
Well,
user base looks like for that right
it
now.
also it also doesn't help that I feel like the output for PSVR has been slowed down in preparation for PSVR 2 next year. And PSVR 2 is going to have to bring it. Like they have a bunch of launch titles announced. I don't feel like a lot of them are super noteworthy. Um and man, if they can get Half-Life Alyx on that platform, that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a huge selling point for me and a ton of other people
Mm-hmm.
if they can get Half-Life Alyx on PSVR 2 or
Hmm.
on anything other than a PC VR platform really. But I
Yeah.
guess the only other one is PSVR 2. So, anyway, um best family game went to Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which
Yeah.
I still have yet to play, but I've heard good things. My significant other played it, and she really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I played the beginning of it and I didn't like it too much, but I hear that it gets better as you go. But I also voted for it mostly because my partner's kids played it, and just seeing like the kid get through it from like beginning to end is just really cool.
Mm.
Hmm.
Because you know sometimes kids don't finish games.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think I voted for Mario plus Rabbids. I did start that. We haven't gotten particularly far in it, but we were enjoying it. That did win best sim/strategy game. Uh, sorry, Jason. It won against Dune Spice Wars.
Hmm.
I don't know if
I'm
that
so
was a game that.
I'm so sad because apparently Dune Spice Wars is apparently actually pretty good. It's in
Yeah.
early access right now,
Mm,
but it's PC only.
yeah.
Which I mean, it's not surprising. It's a 4X game, but however, I did recently discover that Civ 6 is actually on PlayStation, so I've been playing it on PlayStation. It's
Mm,
just easier for me. I don't like sitting in front of my computer that I sit in front of all day for work to play games.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird when we're in like a work from home mentality. It's like you work at your desk all day, so you don't want to play games there anymore
Hmm.
Exactly.
at your PC. Um, yeah. So and anyway, best sports/racing game went to Gran Turismo 7. Another thing I was a little surprised about because Gran Turismo 7, while it was like a good racing game, it had a lot of controversy around the monetization.
Right.
Mm.
Um, which I guess doesn't necessarily speak to it as a game. It more so speaks to it as a product.
Yeah.
But I was still a little taken aback by that.
Hmm.
Best multiplayer went to Splatoon 3.
I
Um,
think this was the one that a lot of people got pissed off. The Call of Duty crowd got pissed off about.
Mm.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is like Splatoon 3, especially in Japan, is or Splatoon in general in Japan is fucking huge.
Hmm.
I think it sold. I think it broke like 3 million copies in its first week or something.
Hmm.
Like the Splatoon 3 is or Splatoon, geez, Splatoon in general, the whole franchise is huge over in Japan.
Oh, I would
And it's
imagine.
it's pretty big here too. And it released with like no issues. A lot of people loved it. It reviewed really well. I was actually kind of surprised that it didn't get the Game of the Year nomination over Xenoblade.
Hmm. Interesting.
I kind of expected Splatoon 3 to get a Game of the Year nomination.
Yeah, I mean,
I
what
think it
people
was
don't
one of my predictions.
understand about Splatoon and what makes it so special. Yeah, I didn't play Splatoon 3, but I played a lot of Splatoon 2. Is that like you don't have to be good at aiming to be good at Splatoon. You could kind of just like spray your little paint everywhere and contribute to the team. So it like offers like a diverse like gameplay repertoire for people. You don't have to aim like you do in Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's a very different competitive shooter where the goal isn't to kill the other team, it's to take over the territory.
Yeah,
Right.
which you also could like
Yeah.
not kill, but you could shoot and like get down the enemy team. But if you have one person there just like painting everywhere, that person's gonna be uh as core to the team as someone who's killing the enemies.
I'm not really into competitive shooters anymore. Not since Team Fortress 2 broke my heart, and then
I
I
feel
got
you. I
kind
feel
of
you.
got over my Overwatch addiction in like 2017 or so. But
Oh,
if I were to get into
you got
another
out at the right time, brother. I'm.
if I were to get into a new competitive shooter, I feel like Splatoon is the one to go with.
Yeah.
Just because it's much more wholesome fun that's competitive, but like it has a different angle to it. It has like
Yeah.
a different edge to it where it's not just like getting kill streaks and like dominating the other team. It's you can play to your own strengths. If you're not very good at aiming, yeah, like Delilah said, you can just paint the environment and
Hey, man.
still contribute in some way.
I'm still
Just
sitting
the
here
only
waiting
thing
for my competitive Katamari game.
Yeah,
You don't tell me that's not an awesome idea.
that would be fun. That would be
totally.
really fun.
That would be chaos.
It's been a while since we got a new Katamari, isn't it?
Yeah.
They re-released the first one a couple years ago, but like I think I did see a rumor that one of the sequels is getting a remaster sometime soon, so we'll see if that comes to fruition. Let's talk about one of the or actually I think it's the last category we have to talk about because we already talked about most anticipated in player's voice. Let's talk about a brand new category that I think is overdue. Best adaptation.
Oh,
And
oh.
the winner was yeah, and for best adaptation this is a video game property that was adapted to film or television. So the nominees were Cyberpunk Edge Runners, The Cuphead Show, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Uncharted, and Arcane League of Legends, which was the winner. Arcane was the winner
Hmm.
of this
I didn't
category.
even think that was in question. Like Arcane was
Yeah.
celebrated by for its writing alone. Forget about like how it adapted. I have zero knowledge of the League of Legends
Well, that's the
universe,
thing, is like
and
League of Legends doesn't have much narrative content to its name, so this was kind of a big change and kind of a big thing for that series. I mean, I think they have been putting out some other like supplementary games that kind of lean into some of the League of Legends lore.
they're really trying to build it up as like a multimedia IP. Yeah.
Yeah, like God, I forget what the games were. I know there's a fighting game in development if that's not
Yes.
already out, and there's like a single player RPG I think that is out now, like something Runeterra.
They're really going all in on it, and hey, I can't. It's a smart strategy.
Yeah, but like from what I hear about Arcane, like my partner's sibling and their husband, they told us they watched it, and I know they don't play League of Legends, but they watched it and they loved it. Um Arcane is supposed to be really, really excellent, even
Yeah,
if
it
you
is.
don't.
It has like really good animation, a really good story, and it ended super solid.
No, I probably should have asked if either of you watched it. I figured
Nope.
Delilah probably
I
had.
actually watched all of these, and all
Yeah.
of them are excellent, with the exception of Uncharted.
Hey, 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 hey! I will defend the Uncharted movie to my death. I will die on this hill. That movie was fun, at
I
the
hated
very
it.
least.
Like to be honest, like I haven't watched it, but I have not heard a single negative thing other than like super like hours long, pick apart like, oh, there's a little bit of a plot hole here. But like in general,
To
I've
be
not
clear,
heard
you're talking about Arcane, right?
yes. I
Okay.
have not heard a single like big negative thing about the writing. The writing is supposed to be superb and from a wide variety of people. That's why I thought it was like a no-brainer. Like that's gonna
Yeah. No, it definitely I feel like it definitely was a no-brainer. I feel like it was either between this or Edge Runners, and I still voted for and suspected Arcane would win.
Yeah.
Um it just seemed like the most obvious choice.
For me, it's interesting because Edge Runners like did a lot for Cyberpunk, but I actually think Cyberpunk the game had like a better story than Edge Runners.
Mhm.
But I think most people watched the anime first and then played the game, so they, I don't know.
Yeah,
I did like a reaction to that whole anime, and people got like mad at me that I didn't cry at the end, and I'm
I
like,
did see you tweeting
I'm
about that, yeah.
sorry. The
Hey,
game had way better relationship moments than this anime.
don't ever apologize for not feeling the same way that the masses felt. That's
Yeah.
I feel like that's becoming me on a daily basis.
welcome to my world, guys.
Yeah. God.
I'm
Sorry,
I'm the
audience.
guy that will come on here and tell you why Breath of the Wild is shit.
Speaking of, maybe we should do a Breath of the Wild episode before Tears of the Kingdom, but we'll
Please,
talk
God
about
no.
that. We'll talk about that off the air. Okay, real quick, let's go over our predictions. So for game of the year, we only did predictions for about 11 categories because I figured it would be really frustrating and annoying if we did predictions for like, oh, the best mobile game, like as if any of us play a lot of mobile games. And I think if any of us just looked it up, we knew it was going to be Marvel Snap. So we just did predictions for 11 categories. Game of the year, we all predicted Elden Ring. For best game direction, Delilah and I predicted Elden Ring. Jason predicted God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah,
Best
I
narrative.
was pretty surprised. I thought they were going to give it to God of War as kind of the
Mhm.
consolation.
Mhm.
For best narrative, we all voted God of War Ragnarok. For best performance, you two voted for Christopher Judge, or predicted Christopher Judge. I predicted Sunny. For best indie game, all Stray. For best debut indie, it was Delilah and I for Stray, Jason for Vampire Survivors. Um, for best action game, I voted for or predicted Shredder's Revenge. Delilah predicted Sifu. Jason was the only one correct on that category with Bayonetta 3. Best action adventure game, all three, God of War Ragnarok. Best role playing game, Delilah and I, Elden Ring. Jason predicted Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I went with that. Because I think when I was reading it, I didn't even realize Elden Ring was on the list. If I'm being completely honest.
Gotcha. For best adaptation, we all predicted Arcane, and for most anticipated, Delilah was the only person correct with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So for winner predictions, Delilah was the winner. She got everything
Wow.
Nice.
for the categories that we did. She got everything right except for best action game, which she predicted Sifu.
Yeah.
So good job, Delilah.
Nice.
Yay. I never
Now
win.
yeah, well, you won this, but get ready
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
announcement predictions because, oh boy, that was something else.
I gotta say, like, for the past few years, my like hype levels for these events have just gone down where I just honestly when I do predictions, I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking predict whatever.
Hey, it's a sign that we're getting old. We're all getting old here.
Old
You
and
know?
like just the way the
Jaded.
shows are. Like there was like
Hey, just wait till
this
you guys get
golden
married, man.
period that's over.
So before we move on to the announcements, I do kind of want to acknowledge the weird way that this show ended. Um which was it has been a wild ride for the past few days. Basically, some kid snuck up after Elden Ring was announced Game of the Year. Some kid snuck up with Miyazaki and the From Software crew and just inconspicuously stood behind them um
Yeah,
while they were
you can actually watch him sitting behind them and like slowly sneaking up as they're walking up to the stage. It's pretty funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like after Miyazaki accepts the award and does his closing speech or whatever, this kid walks up to or goes up to the mic and says, for this award, I would like to nominate my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton. Thank you." And right as he's finishing that sentence, you could see security closing in on him.
Well,
Yeah.
Miyazaki, the funniest part about that is just Miyazaki's face because he has no idea what's going on.
Well, like no, but like nobody knew. Like even like I saw Delilah and your crew's reaction to this. I saw everybody on my Twitter feed, just everybody collectively all at once within the span of 2 minutes going, "What the fuck was that? What just happened? Who was that?"
Even the audience was frozen.
Well, even Jeff tried to play it off so
Yeah.
cool, but was just like, "All right." It's just like, wow. Someone really just did that. Someone really just crashed the end of the Game Awards. And like it was so funny sitting on Twitter for the following 10 minutes after the stream ended because you just get this tweet from Geoff Keighley saying the individual that ruined the end moment of our ceremony has been arrested, and everyone was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
It was
The
kind of a wild ride.
the
And there
memes
was like
have been good.
no, the memes were good instantaneously. I sent a few to our channel,
Yeah.
and I saw a few others that I just sent to like some
Yeah,
friends and stuff. But like,
many a great Bill Clinton recreations within the Elden Ring character creator.
yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean, I loved the first one that I saw is probably still my favorite, which is someone just like highlighted him in red a little bit and was like, "A red phantom has invaded."
Yeah.
Like that was probably the best one I saw, and it was the first one I saw. Like,
And also when that girl was like, "Oh, there's a
oh
murderer
yeah,
somewhere," and it's like she was like almost right.
he's like, statistically speaking, there is a murderer amongst all of
They
you.
like zoomed it to Reggie Fils-Aimé and a bunch of other people.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was such a weird and there was a lot of talk in the following 24 hours about who this kid was and why he did that, and there were talks apparently he was on a controversial show called InfoWars at some point in his life, and people felt that what he went up there to say was anti-Semitic. um Jason Schreier, notable Bloomberg investigative journalist, interviewed the kid. Apparently, it just boils down to he was just looking for his 15 seconds of fame.
Mm.
Which
And
I don't know why anybody thought it was anything more than that.
yeah, I think people kind of went. I mean, this is Twitter we're talking about, so people went a little too deep with it and kind of ran with their own theories and made some assumptions that were arguably dangerous. But yeah, to me it very much seemed obviously it was a teenager looking to just be in the spotlight, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much what he got. So
I mean, like to be fair, like he let Miyazaki finish his speech and he said what he had to say and he said goodbye and he left. He didn't like linger,
yeah,
you know?
might be a little topical, but he didn't pull a Kanye.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably why people were like coming to these crazy conclusions.
Yeah, that definitely could play a little bit into it, is with everything that's been going on with that man. Anyway, so yeah, what a wild way to end the award show. But
Yeah.
we've only really covered half of the Game Awards. We
Yeah.
need to cover the other half, which
Let's
is the
go.
hype. The hype, the reason millions and millions of people tune in every year. And
Hmm.
that's for those hot world premieres. Um,
Yes.
They're really stretching the definition of world premiere. I gotta
yeah,
be honest.
Oh my
I
god.
it's kind of hard when like we have leak culture at an all-time high. So honestly, a lot of the biggest announcements I already kind of knew about.
Well, some of
Mhm.
the world premieres were just ports of like older
Well,
games. EA.
yeah. I mean, some of them were there were a good amount of fresh uh big surprises, I'll say. And we'll talk about some of those, but there were a good number of big high profile ports, and several things, like I said, I already knew about because I have been following certain leakers who are pretty reputable and have been getting things right, and they got a lot of things here right. So, but never mind about that. I mean, let's talk about some of the exciting things. In the pre-show, I was really surprised. Dead Cells, I know, is like a huge indie game still years later. I was really shocked to see that they're doing a Castlevania crossover.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That's pretty hype. Did you play Dead Cells? I feel
I
like you
played
did.
Dead Cells for a few hours.
Okay.
I've got through like maybe 3 levels and that's it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I do hear Dead Cells is great.
I wanna go back to it, it's very addictive.
Yeah. Okay. Vampire Survivors getting a mobile port. I think that might be where I break and play it.
Hmm.
I don't know that I wanted to play it like too much on just like Xbox, or definitely not on PC. I mean, I don't even have a PC, so I can't play it there. But on mobile, I feel like it's right at home there. It might be worth picking up and playing.
Hmm.
Jason, you look very confused. Is it
Nah,
because you don't have a phone?
might have something to do with it.
um, Skipping ahead.
I have a beeper. Beeper is sufficient.
Oh man. I won't go over all these announcements unless there's any that you guys specifically want to call out that I don't already call out. Returnal's coming to PC. That's a great game, and that's been long rumored. Happy to see it finally coming out there. What did you guys think of that Hellboy game?
That actually looked really cool.
Yeah, I kind of thought so too.
It
Or at
looks
least the
cool. I like the subject material. I do enjoy Hellboy. I don't know though. I got to see like a full in motion game. It reminds me a lot of You remember back on the Wii, there were a series of those games like what was it? No More
Mad
Heroes, and
World.
then Mad World. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mad World was one of them. It was kind of like Sin City, but the black and white.
yeah.
That stuff can work. I just got to see it in like full motion. I think that looks something that was more pre-rendered.
My only complaint about it was I feel like every time he was doing an attack, he was like doing a punch. It didn't look like it didn't look like it felt good. It didn't look like it felt like too impactful of a hit.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of hoping that that is improved by the time
Hmm.
that the game comes out. I mean, it also might just be the fact that I'm not playing it. I'm just looking at it.
Yeah.
But still, like you can still gauge how something might feel just by looking at it, and it didn't look like it was.
It'll also be interesting to see if they even have voice acting, if they can get Ron Perlman.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, we got another look at Horizon Call of the Mountain, a PSVR 2 title. I thought that game Post Trauma looked really, really cool. That kind of looked like
Was that
old
the
school.
survival horror thing?
Yeah, and it
Oh,
looked like it
yeah.
was kind of using a mix of fixed camera angles and like some more dynamic camera
Hmm.
usage.
And it was kind of like it looked like a janitor who was kind of wandering
Yeah,
around.
maybe. I just love the fact that it looked like it was harkening back to like classic survival horror games with the
Right.
fixed
Hmm.
camera angles. That was very, very cool to see. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Hmm.
Viewfinder is a game I've been following the Twitter account for that game's development for years, and I'm so happy to see that it's like finally being formed into a game that's actually coming out.
It
That's
looks
the
trippy as hell.
Yeah, like I always thought whenever they put out like a new GIF of gameplay of that, I always loved watching it because it's so creative and so trippy. This is for anyone that might not remember. This is the game where the player has it's a first person game where the player has a Polaroid camera and takes a picture and can put that picture in some player, and it'll actually like it'll form like a new part of the world based on that Polaroid or based on that picture.
Yeah.
It looks like a very trippy like imagery puzzle game.
Yeah, it kind of remind me of a little bit of Maquette, but like more creative.
Yeah, for me, there's another game somewhat similar to Maquette, Superliminal.
I haven't played
Um,
that.
and all by the way, all these games reminded me of this game, Viewfinder, because like I said, I've been following this game for years. I've been seeing gifs of it for years. I've been looking forward to it actually coming out as like a tangible product I could buy. So like Maquette, Superliminal, all of them reminded me of this. So it's great to see this finally coming into fruition. I'm really looking forward to this one. What else? I don't remember what was Scars Above. I feel like that was like a big one that people liked, but I don't remember anything about it.
I don't remember.
Okay, cool.
Hmm.
Great. How did you guys feel about the hide and seek mode coming to Among Us? Do either of you play Among Us?
Nope.
I haven't since the beginning.
Okay.
I like it. It's just I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a multiplayer game. You know, it's the same stuff more or less as you play. I mean,
Yeah,
they add stuff, which is
from what I
cool, but
understand, there was kind of like a meta that basically just broke the game, and once people played it enough, they understood kind of the meta and how each
Well,
match was going to go.
I feel like it all comes down to how a player wants to what they want to do during a match that might like there's a card game slash social game that I play a lot called One Night Ultimate Werewolf, and like there's a finite amount of strategies you can do in that game to get away with winning, uh, but it's all a matter of how you want to play the game.
Mm.
I feel like Among Us is a little more constrained in that way because whereas One Night Ultimate Werewolf is a social tabletop game where it really comes down to how well you can lie. Among Us is somewhat similar, but you're kind of constrained to those mechanics that the game provides you with.
yeah.
So like there might be some sort of meta that has kind of been boiled down over the past few years, but I still see it being somewhat relevant and being somewhat still having an ability to be somewhat fresh. The hide and seek mode seems like it's a really cool turn of events, as opposed to being someone hiding, um, and trying to stay hidden and get away with being the imposter. This time you're just all out a fucking beast going around, and everyone has to hide from you as opposed to you hiding from them.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool mode. I'm kind of surprised it took them this long to kind of turn the game on its head like that, but it looks fun.
Well,
Yeah.
since Among Us came out, we've had a couple game like that. There was that Friday. Was it Friday the 13th? They did where one
I
person
think
plays
that
Jason.
I think
Uh,
that came out though that trend's been going since I think
Yeah,
before Among Us became popular. I think
maybe.
Yeah.
I could be
Friday
wrong
13th
though.
was before
I
Among
mean,
Us.
hell, Halo had modes like that where you
I
had the
think
one overpowered player and everybody
I
else was yeah.
I think the game that really sparked that, like those, taking a classic horror IP and making a video game out of it, Dead by Daylight was probably the biggest
Yeah.
one to
Mm,
spark that revolution. You got like Friday the 13th. You've got Predator
Evil
Hunting
Dead.
Grounds, Evil Dead.
hmm
Isn't there another one?
I think the Ghostbusters game is similar.
Was it okay?
Yeah.
Um, Continuing on, we got another trailer for Replaced. I think that game is looking really cool. I believe that one was delayed. It was supposed to come out this year, but I believe it was delayed because the developer is based in Ukraine.
Is that
Mm.
the Blade Runner esque side scroller?
Um,
It's like the cyberpunk
Cyberpunk.
cyberpunk should be a genre, by the way.
I feel like cyberpunk is kind of a thing, isn't it? Um, I think so. Yeah, I think you're thinking of the right thing. So that's looking pretty
But
cool.
yeah, I believe you're right that the developer was affected by the war.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain I remember that coming up when I was doing. Oh, they were founded in Belarus, so yeah, I did somewhat affected by the conflict going on over there. Um. Anyway, that game is looking really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Street Fighter 6 is coming out June 2nd. I don't know how you guys are feeling about Street Fighter.
It looks really cool. I tend to like not play fighting games as much as I used to back in the day. There's
Yeah.
just something about like having friends over and like passing the controller versus like playing online that just doesn't sit with me right.
Yeah, I
Gotcha.
mean, I guess I'm not in a place to speak because I haven't played Street Fighter since I think three. Um,
Oh wow.
I might have dabbled in four. I can't remember. Um,
Hmm.
the only thing I have to say about it is, as somebody who played a lot of Street Fighter back in the day, like Street Fighter Two, um, is that like I don't know if these are characters from like four and five. They basically I just don't see a lot of like the classic characters that I associate with Street Fighter. You see like Ryu like every now and again, but he seems to be like a mentor character because I guess this is like more of an RP. Like you make your own character and develop them. I don't.
Yeah, like I think you create like an avatar fighter, like for like your own fighter, so to speak. And I know the game is gonna have like its own Yeah, keep in mind, like none of us are big fighting game enthusiasts. I'm probably even less so than these two. So, we are not the people to go to for the hot Street Fighter info. But I will say that with the hub area and the kind of the evolutions that they're putting toward Street Fighter 6, this is the most interested I've ever been in a Street Fighter game. Um
Yeah, they have a lot more like mini game stuff and things that are just not just like online play or arcade.
yeah.
But they did bring back I think DJ and a few other characters. But you're right, for the most part, it's either new characters or like character creation.
Yeah. Um Moving on to the first, I think this was the first big announcement of the main show, and I'm very surprised about this because Supergiant
Yeah,
primarily I feel has always put out like a new original game. They started with Bastion, and then they put out Transistor, and then it was Pyre, right?
Yes.
Pyre was after that? Okay. And
Yes.
then the most recent, Hades. And obviously Hades was the biggest success that they've ever had, but I still thought they would do something original next. Not so. They announced Hades 2.
yeah.
I'm a little disappointed, to be honest.
Yeah? Did either of you play Hades?
I
A
played it,
little
but
bit.
I only did the first boss, and I didn't continue because I wanted to play it on PlayStation.
Yeah, okay.
And it's
Jason,
nothing
did
to it's
you?
nothing to do with Hades at all. I played a little bit of it. It's just
Okay.
not my the roguelikes aren't really my jam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah,
it is a fun game, like to play, moment to moment gameplay. Something against Hades. I liked that Supergiant always did something different.
it's been on my list, and from what I hear, Hades is the roguelike to introduce people to that don't like roguelikes, and I don't really like roguelikes. That being said, I really enjoyed Returnal, which was also kind of one of those games that was like a roguelike that was good for people that don't really like that much.
Yeah.
And like I said, I really enjoyed Returnal. So like I've been meaning to get to Hades. Hades is also just like a pretty big time commitment, and
Yeah.
I haven't found that time. Um, so yeah, it was interesting to see them actually do a direct sequel to one of their games as opposed to going to something new, because traditionally that's what Supergiant's always done.
Yeah,
Um,
when they first showed it, I actually thought it was DLC because it came out in 2019, which wasn't really that long ago.
yeah,
At least it doesn't feel that long ago, or
yeah.
or it feels really long ago.
I think
I go back and forth, but
I think time is just like a total construct
yeah,
now at this
totally,
point.
And as we said before, it was in early access before that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
But then I was like, but it doesn't make sense that would be DLC because it's a completely new character. So that's really cool. It's like it's just motivating me to like get to that game at some point.
yeah. I think it came out in 2020, and it was in early access as early as like 2018. So yeah, like that game has arguably been out for a long time if you want to
Yeah.
count early access.
Hmm.
So yeah, Hades 2. I mean, it looks great. It makes me want to actually dedicate time and carve something out so I
Yeah,
can play
the art
the
team over
original
there
game.
always nails it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And
Supergiant.
as a bit of a personal touch, having met all those guys, including the head of the studio, they're really nice people too.
Cool. Very nice.
For
That's always helpful.
a little plus from our days at ye old place.
Yes, yes, the place that shall not be named.
What was that? That was PAX. I was looking at Pyre. Yeah, they were Pyre was not released yet. That was the PAX
Yeah,
before they released Pyre.
yeah. Probably the biggest surprise And I'm very disappointed in myself for not thinking of this, or not thinking about this specifically as a prediction. Finally, almost like emerging from the ashes, is Ken Levine's next game.
So, am I the
Yeah.
only person who said in their head, like, is this just Bioshock 4?
I mean, it looks a lot like BioShock.
Yeah.
Like like artistically, even like yeah, they're pulling random magical powers out of their hand while
Fucking
also having a
plasmids.
yeah. It's just another. It does look like BioShock, but like not with that IP. So the game we're talking
Mm.
about is Judas, and that's coming from Ghost Story Games, Ken Levine's latest studio that was formed in like 2014 and has been workshopping ideas for a video game ever since. And
Now,
Yeah.
finally,
to be to be fair, Bioshock did take a lot from System Shock. Wait, was
Yeah.
that yeah,
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 but BioShock still carved out like a pretty unique
yeah. It was
identity
a
for
jump. It was a
itself.
jump from 2D to first person. Yeah,
But like, man, this looks like BioShock, but not from 2K.
right.
It very much looks like a Ken Levine product, and it looks great. I'm really excited for it. I'm really looking forward to it. But I don't know why I didn't think of this as a prediction. Probably because I didn't think it would ever fucking happen, and here it is. It finally happened.
Yeah, I the only reason I wasn't like so excited about it is because it felt a little more light and bright than BioShock. Whereas for BioShock, like yeah, there's color there, but there's something very dark and like sinister about it that I
The
didn't get
color,
from this trailer.
the color is very masked in shadows. They play with light a lot in the level design. Yeah, I get
I
what you're saying.
Yeah.
I would recommend watching it again because I feel like I felt the same way until I watched the trailer a second
Okay,
time.
fair
Yeah.
enough.
I feel like watching it again, I did notice like yeah, it is a little more violent, a little more edgy, and obviously like they didn't show a ton, but like it's probably gonna be ultra violent, almost to a detriment, kind of like how I feel Bioshock Infinite was at the end of the day.
Mm,
Um, where it almost is like much ado about nothing. But like it looks cool, it looks fun, and it looks like Bioshock, and I liked Bioshock, so
yeah.
I'm more so, if anything, I'm more so just shocked that this thing is actually
Yeah.
something that was announced, because like I said, Ghost Story Games formed in like 2014, and it's been basically silence ever since. And
Yeah.
if you go read it's either Blood, Sweat, and Pixels or Press Reset. It's one of Jason Schreier's books. I think it's his second book, Press Reset. He talks about Bioshock Infinite's development, and he talks a lot about Ken Levine. And Ken Levine's a very difficult auteur to work with.
Mm,
A lot of Ken Levine's approach to things is it's his way or no way, and he's not even sure what his way is most of the time.
oh
he's
damn.
he's apparently a very difficult like just person to work under, creator, visionary to help develop for. So definitely recommend that book. But yeah, it's no surprise that Ghost Story Games has taken this long to put out a product, and we'll see how long it even takes after this.
Yeah.
Okay, the next game is the game that Delilah was alluding to earlier, and that's Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Last Demon.
um
Which, go ahead.
No, okay, so obviously they're changing the gameplay completely. It's
Yeah.
not like hack and slash. It's like this. I don't even know how to explain it. It seems more like a platformer than anything. Um,
Yeah.
but even in terms of like the story direction, it feels like they're trying to fill plot holes that they failed to fill in Bayonetta 3,
Yeah.
and that bothers me.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I initially started because they started by showing footage of Bayonetta 3 and then doing like a whole rewind thing, and I'm like, so is this Bayonetta 3 DLC?
Yeah.
No, it's a full game. It
Yeah.
went up for pre-order today. It's $60.
Ugh.
which, like,
That seemed like a $30 game or $40
if
at the
they hey,
most.
I'm not I don't like to argue
True.
too much about, like, video game pricing, because, like, you could have a game like Tunic, which is on digital storefronts for like $30, and it might take you 12 hours, and I think that's an amazing 12 hours well spent. And then you might have a game like Bayonetta 3 that's $60
Yeah,
that also is 12 hours, and you might leave that game feeling really dissatisfied. So, like,
true.
I don't like to compare prices too much. But that being said, I looked at this and thought it was a DLC, and to find out that this is a full $60 game, I'm kind of really hoping that it brings it, because it so
Yeah.
far isn't really selling me on the idea of bringing it.
I mean,
No.
it's a prequel, and y'all know how I feel about prequels.
Yeah, but like,
Mhm.
Like, did you
I
need
don't.
to know? Or I shouldn't say no because you knew. Did you need to see Darth Vader become Darth Vader? No.
Okay,
Do you
well,
need
hold
to
on.
see
Hold
Bayonetta
on.
become Bayonetta? No.
Hold on,
Oh god.
because George Lucas had been planning. We're not getting into this. I don't want to get into prequel talk any more than we already did. With talking about Attack of the Clones, it's another episode for another year. Um, but yeah, this was a weird one, and I honestly, I initially thought it was going to be like a free update or something, and then they gave it a release date, which made me think, okay, so it's probably DLC with a price.
Mhm.
No, it's a game, and it's a very weird looking game for Bayonetta,
Mhm.
And I'm not opposed to doing something new and
I
original and
I
different.
didn't catch, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention in the trailer. Is Platinum themselves developing it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I didn't see that either.
Here, I'll look that up real fast.
I mean,
Um,
like, gameplay wise, if they want to do something different, I'm fine with that. But for me, it's just like you can tell they're trying to explain things that they failed to explain in Bayonetta 3, and it's things that I just don't care about. So that's what makes it worse. Um,
yeah, I just like it looks like it is developed by Platinum. Yeah,
Okay then.
which that might be cause for less concern, but it's still just such a weird choice. I mean, artistically, it's very different. It looks very storybookish. Looks like a totally different style genre of game. Again, I'm not opposed to something like that. I almost welcome that. Uh, it's just when you put out a game like Bayonetta 3 that had that had a very controversial ending and a very disappointing story, on account of just not telling much of a story at all. eh, yeah, this was definitely a weird announcement, and it was
yeah,
one of if not the only Nintendo announcement in the show. I don't
yeah.
believe there was
Besides
another
the
one.
Mario movie, which is a movie.
Yeah, which we already knew about, and then there was like a trailer for a Splatoon 3 event coming, but like Splatoon 3 has events all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely a weird announcement. Um, this is a question directed at the two of you specifically. Are you gonna get back into Destiny when Lightfall comes out?
No.
So, so I'm
Mason's really struggling with this one.
I'm weird because I'm a big fan of or I was a big fan of Bungie as a developer, and despite having had the moral strength to finally divorce from Destiny back when what was it, New Light or whatever came out, for a variety
Beyond
of reasons that we don't
Beyond
need to get
Light?
into. Beyond Light, whatever the fuck it was called, I don't know, fucking travesty. That whole game is a fucking travesty at this point. And th- this is getting to what I'm getting. For some reason, I still pay attention to what's going on in the community. I still listen to YouTubers who are big in the community and what the sentiment is like. And it feels like the entire community is basically catching up to where me and Delilah are now. Um, I see the Lightfall trailer and I have like zero interest in it's.
Okay.
Eh.
Did Destiny change its art style because it's almost unrecognizable to me?
Maybe
That's
just the
part of
art
this trailer
direction.
is that it like one of the reasons I loved Destiny to begin with was that mixture of like dark horror and space fantasy, and this was
Yeah.
like some weird cyberpunk thing. I don't know what they're doing, man.
Yeah.
Well, the question had to be asked, because I know.
Destiny's doing its own weird thing, monetizing at every level, seasonal content plus expand. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it. It will make me too
Yeah.
sad.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We can move on. What did you guys think about that Suicide Squad trailer? Which
It's so
Suicide?
sad.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like the game. As for the game, it's like, just to briefly talk about the game itself. Like, they still haven't really shown me anything to make me too impressed by the game itself. I did appreciate the nod to Kevin Conroy, though.
and that
Um,
his voice work. He already did
yeah,
all his voice work, and it'll be released
yeah.
posthumously.
Yeah, they showed more gameplay, I think, in the last trailer that they released, or maybe the trailer before that, and it did look fun. But of course, after Gotham Knights, even though it's a different developer, there's like some worry there. I felt like this was redeeming for it, especially in terms of story. It's funny. It's called Kill the Justice League, and I was like, I didn't expect Batman, and I definitely didn't expect Kevin Conroy Batman.
Yeah,
So it was very redeeming for me to see that, and yeah, big sad.
I think the biggest thing this game has going for it is the fact that it is developed by Rocksteady,
Hmm.
not
Yeah,
Warner Brothers Montreal was the developer of
yeah,
Gotham Knights, which
yeah,
Gotham Knights was like, yeah. Once they started announcing with that game, like, yeah, it's gonna be like a co-op RPG adventure game where
yeah,
you'll have gear, and it's like, ah, yep, here we go again.
yeah,
And then there were talks of like, no, it's not Avengers, don't worry, it's nothing like Avengers. Okay. And
yeah,
then it didn't have satisfying combat. But my biggest concern with Suicide Squad is I feel like we haven't seen like uninterrupted gameplay ever for this game, and that's not helping to sell me on it in
That's
any way.
that's pretty much where I'm at too. Yeah,
Yeah,
is that I want to see like an extended gameplay sequence.
yeah. But it's
yeah,
coming out on May 26th, so not too much uh further into next year for that one, I guess, unless it gets delayed. We
yeah.
shall see. The Last of Us Part 1 got confirmed coming to PC on March 3rd. I mean, Delilah got it on PS5. I still haven't bought it yet. I doubt Jason will, but
It's,
I'm go ahead.
no, it looks great. I mean, it's one of the better looking PS5 games.
I
So
mean, I'm just happy PlayStation's still going forward with releasing a lot of their games on PC. If you're a fanboy that's pissed about this, I don't fucking care. More
dude, The Last
people.
of Us came out. I mean, I know not part one just came out, but like the actual game came out literally 2 generations ago. Shut the
Yeah,
fuck up.
I agree. I agree. I totally agree. It's
Not only that, but like, if you want companies not to continue to raise prices of video games, you're gonna have to get with they need more revenue to
Yeah.
match
I
these
mean,
budgets
I
that are
don't
ever rising.
I don't think that that's gonna stop publishers from raising the price of video
Oh
games.
no, I mean,
But
in an ideal world, but I'm just saying,
yeah,
like, that will be a reason put forth.
no, for
Yeah,
sure.
it definitely helps monetarily for them to continue to make good games.
Yeah. Um, Probably one of the most exciting release dates that we got, and it's really not far away. Jedi Survivor
Yeah.
coming out March 17th.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Um, we're doing an episode on that one, right,
Oh
guys?
yeah, I loved the first
Yes.
game.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the best
Yeah.
Star Wars story told since Lucas sold the fucking property.
I mean, besides the collectibles being ponchos and ship skins that you'll never see, I really enjoyed Jedi Fallen Order. And
Yeah, I hope they like change the fast travel system too.
yeah, I mean, I just hope that they learned a lot of the lessons from the Jedi Fallen Order. I hopefully they listen to our episodes so they know all the things we need to fix,
Yeah.
to make it like the perfect Star Wars video game.
Yeah. And Cal
Um,
Kestis looks cool with the beard.
Oh, my former shout outs to my buddy Alex. He was very what's the best way of putting this? He was very horny for bearded Cal Kestis. He really likes the new look,
It's
and
weird to me because I don't know if we talked about this when we did the episode. My brother's name is Cal, and they look
Oh.
very similar.
uh, I
So
thought
like
you were
seeing
gonna
him with a
bring up.
beard looks like it's like what I don't know what there's a word I'm thinking of that I can't remember off the top of my head right now. It's like dissociative. Like I'm like, no,
Gotcha.
wait, what is that?
Right.
I thought you were gonna bring up that he's Cameron Monaghan is he's one of the people in Shameless. He's one of the brothers in Shameless or something, and that's a pretty popular show. I don't know. I had a friend talk to me about the fact that he was in Shameless, and
Mm.
that was kind of his dissociative viewpoint of the character. But anyway, uh, Jedi Survivor looking great. Very excited. Looking forward to that one. Stay
Yes.
tuned for an episode because we will most definitely be talking about it. Did you guys play? Well, okay, Jason couldn't have played it because he doesn't have a PS5 yet. But Delilah, did you play the Forspoken demo?
I did actually.
What were your thoughts?
So, I hate the dialogue more than I did in
Yeah.
the trailers.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah, like she's just like brooding all the time and not in a way that's like justified, and I feel like it's giving New Yorkers a bad name. We're not all like that all the time. We're like that when it's relevant. When you're like walking slow in the middle of Times Square and we got to go to work, like that's when you'll get those reactions. She's reacting that way to like every single thing that's happening,
To
and they're
quote
trying to do
to
like
quote
a
Ghostbusters 2, as a fellow New Yorker, I will back Delilah up on this. To quote Ghostbusters 2, it is every New Yorker's God given right to be a fucking ass. Or they don't say fucking in the movie, but to be an asshole.
and they try and do like some Grimoire Weiss kind of bickering there, and it's just not hitting for me. But I will say the combat is interesting. It does kind of remind me of like Final Fantasy 15, and I know that combat wasn't great, and this one I can't say is great either,
No.
but I feel like it's not terrible. Like it's one of the better parts of the demo in my opinion. The
Here
environments look shitty, and it was very jittery. And the traversal is cool, and that's it. Yeah.
I see. I Here's my thing. I played it too. The traversal was neat when it worked. It didn't always work for me. Um, Combat looked and I feel like felt cool, but I had no idea what I was doing half the time.
Yeah, it was a lot to manage because they gave you like two different elements, and then you have to like press R1 and L1 to get in to switch the element, and then once you switch the element, you had to switch the powers by holding down L1 and then using the weapon wheel to
Yeah,
select the ability, and then there was like just a regular like hack ability.
and I did those. I was switching between things pretty often, but like for the main spells that I was casting, it didn't feel like they all like any of them felt that different from one another.
Yeah.
And I think that part of the problem is it's one of those demos that kind of drops you in the middle of an RPG, which is a
Yes.
genre that has a lot of systems at play. And if you get dropped in the middle of that and you don't necessarily know what one thing does, and you have to like you basically have to sit in a demo and do a lot of reading so you understand the progression systems that you have. And this game has like 3 different progression systems that I could find. And just like to do all that in a demo to understand what I have to do, and then there's a combat tutorial, but it doesn't really explain a whole lot. It just kind of tells you what the buttons do, but it doesn't really
Yeah.
explain what any of the abilities do. And like I said, it felt somewhat fun to play, but I have no idea what I did, so I can't really gauge whether or not the final product will be fun. I'm no more sold than I was before playing this demo, and that kind of concerns me.
Yeah.
And like I totally see like I've been saying this since day one. This game
Yeah.
looks like Final Fantasy 15 if they just used the magic system but improved on it. And Final Fantasy 15's magic system, the magic system was the worst part about that game's combat
Right.
because it was just so bare bones. It was such an afterthought. And this is like, okay, so let's just make an entire game based around that. And I'm not sure that it's totally working.
Yeah. I will say that the music that they played in the intro was really, really cool. It reminded me of like a hip hop Horizon theme.
I
Um,
wasn't into
you
it.
didn't like it? I really liked
No.
it. I really
That's
liked it.
fine. I mean, hey, that's fine.
But you also liked Viola's theme, and I hated it, so, you
Oh, I
know.
love Viola's theme. Viola's theme fucking ruled. That's like Paramore to that's like Paramore's first two albums right there. That's
Yeah.
that theme fucking was awesome. That cried to every pop punk inkling within my soul. Um but like I mean I'm not opposed to music like that theme that was in Forspoken. It just wasn't really hitting for me. And then
Yeah.
like it was very in stark contrast to the rest of the music that played throughout that demo, which I found really repetitive and not very interesting in any way.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame and is really surprising because that score is composed by Bear McCreary and Gary Scheinman.
Mm.
Um, Bear McCreary, who we just talked about earlier, God of War composed God of War and God of War Ragnarok, and amongst so many other things. Gary Scheinman's very famous for Bioshock, the score for Bioshock.
Yeah.
So for them to be behind the music, it's kind of disappointing and surprising that it wasn't really hitting for me.
Yeah. Totally.
And Tabata's at the helm of this, right?
No,
Oh,
Tabata's
he's
not with
not.
Square Enix anymore.
Oh, he's not. Okay, I thought he was
No,
still part heading up that team.
no. So this is that same developer. This is Luminous Productions, but the directors of this are Takeshi Aramaki and Takefumi Terada. The writers behind it are some big names like Amy Hennig and Gary Whitta, as long as Todd Stashwick, K. Michael Parandi, and Allison Reimer. There's a lot of big names behind this game, which is why I'm really disappointed I'm not more sold on it.
Yeah.
Um,
I
what's up,
didn't.
Mason? You look very
No,
confused.
I'm just deep in thought. Like, 'cause, yeah, you mentioned I didn't even know Bear McCreary or Amy Hennig were involved with this.
Yeah.
I I would really like. Hopefully, Jason Schreier does a deep dive on the development of this game because how we got the product that it looks like we're gonna get.
I mean,
That might even be more interesting than the product itself.
it's interesting because it's a Japanese developer with a lot of Westerners leading the
Right,
project.
right.
It's like
Which
Amy Hennig and Gary Whitta. They're massively prolific Western writers. And then you've got two Western music composers involved, as opposed to any Japanese composers.
that
It's a
and that
very
that has
interesting
been
product.
that has been a problematic element for Square in the past. I mean, granted, we're talking way past, but the production stories from Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within the movie. I mean, aside from the fact that they shouldn't have let Sakaguchi write a fucking screenplay, um, but even more so than that, Square working, internationally, in conjunction with an English. They were like based in Honolulu, I think, in Hawaii. There are a lot of horror stories that come out of the kind of clash of Japanese working with English speakers. Square have had issues with that in the past, so
Mhm.
curious.
Yeah, and we'll
Yeah.
see how that game shapes out. That's a game that I'm kind of looking at, thinking like I don't think it's going to review particularly well critically.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna get like at like sevens, which isn't bad, but
And the way that this demo kind of came out, and I mean, Square's been putting out demos for all of their games pretty much. I'm not surprised they put out a demo for this one. I do feel that the circumstances surrounding this demo, the kind of the way the demo is structured, they're really desperate for this game to sell. They're really
yeah.
desperate for people to be interested in it.
I would not be surprised they're still trying to recoup losses from the production of that engine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we'll see. I'm not confident that this game is gonna perform well critically or commercially, but
If it's anything like the demo, definitely not.
yeah, I like I said, I really wanted to be sold on this, and I'm still not, and that kind of sucks, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. Um, Pivot from that disappointing announcement slash demo to something I am so fucking hyped for. I still have to watch the trailer again, but we're getting a Death Stranding 2, guys.
I'm so
Kojima's
excited.
back. Getting
Love it.
Sam Porter Bridges with gray hair. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, you don't
So,
seem too enthused.
well, again, go listen. We did an episode on Death Stranding. Yeah,
We
Yeah.
did. We
yeah.
did do an episode of
You
Death
can you
Stranding.
can hear my
That
thoughts
was
on Death
not a
Stranding
fever
there.
dream that you had one October. That
Yeah,
was a
you can
real
you can
episode.
you can hear my thoughts on Death Stranding there. I had hoped that Kojima would move on, but he won't. I don't know. Like when it comes to Kojima, like it's almost like when he comes out, everybody applauds, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, you're not that relevant anymore. I don't
Damn.
know.
I would not say that. I would
Like
not go that
you
far.
had a great series. Like I don't love Kojima. I loved Metal Gear. You understand what I'm saying?
No,
Right.
I
Yeah,
get
I
you.
think
like
most people can't make that distinction either. Like
and
it's pretty yeah.
and like I've also read a lot about it and like know that like Kojima wasn't the only guy there. Like he's not like this crazy genius everybody thinks. It's like George Lucas. Like I know that George Lucas wasn't the only guy there. He's not this amazing genius that came up with everything. Like a lot of things that get attributed to both of them are falsely so.
I mean, I would converse or contrast to that. As of the time that or the day that we're recording, tomorrow Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII comes out, and or Reunion, the remaster of Crisis Core comes out. That's going to be our spoilers. That's going to be our next episode of Reap the Spoils, traditional Reap the Spoils. And there was a review that a publication put out claiming that this was a remaster of Nomura's goofiest game. um Nomura was not a writer for Crisis Core. He was not a creative force really behind Crisis
Interesting.
Core. So but that's a common narrative that people pull out whenever there's something from Square, something from Final Fantasy that they think is like really out there or really goofy or really wacky. They blame Nomura for it. Nomura doesn't really have anything to do with most of that shit.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
I give Nomura a lot of shit, but to be fair, like the dude didn't even know he was directing remake. Like there's a lot more going on there behind the
And
scenes. Yeah.
it wasn't really on him, not getting into the spoilers for Final Fantasy VII remake, but it wasn't really on him for some of remake's wildest and wackiest like changes and story elements. That wasn't Nomura's doing, but he still always gets blamed for it because he's the boogeyman that everyone likes to blame. So that's just it's something relevant that is contrast to exactly what you just pointed out about Kojima.
Right. No, I get the
um
point you're
Yeah.
making. Yeah.
I mean, I like Death Stranding too. I just Death Stranding, and I think it's cool. It looks like we're playing as Fragile for a bit, so
yeah
it's interesting that we're gonna be playing as someone different. And I liked Fragile a lot in the game. And BB's older, a little older, so it's
yeah
kind of funny. And there seems to be some weird shit, of course.
of course.
And the freaking Troy Baker's back is I can't remember his name, the main villain, but he seems to
Yeah.
be on some weirder shit than he was on in the first game. So I mean, I'm all in, you know?
Yeah, like
I feel like
I
he's repeating a lot of this. Kojima's repeating a lot of the same mistakes, though. Where like I watched that trailer and I barely remember anything from the first game, so I was confused as fuck. Jeff Keighley tried to like lead Kojima into like a question like about what the game's about, and of course Kojima evaded and he's
Yeah.
and didn't say anything about the game, which I
well,
feel like was a big problem for the first game that we didn't know anything about it until like a week before it came out.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I see. I feel like that almost helped me because I feel like that's the kind of game that I didn't want to know too much about beforehand. And I walked away enjoying Death Stranding. I think some of its story elements were a little wacky, and I think it was really clever how he gamified being a fucking mailman. um I thought that was really interesting, but there were certain aspects that didn't quite work, and go listen to our Death Stranding episode if you want to hear more about that. But that being said, like he talked about how I found this really amusing. He talked about how he had to rewrite the story for Death Stranding 2 um, due to COVID, and he also said that he didn't want to wind up predicting the future again, which I found very funny because
Meanwhile, the punchline is we should have connected.
yeah, like Kojima's kind of predicted the future twice on accident. He
Yeah.
kind of predicted the future with Metal Gear Solid 2 with how information is kind of sent through the internet and how memification kind of impacts culture, and he kind of accidentally predicted the pandemic
Yeah.
by having everyone in isolation.
Yeah.
If we're being completely fair, technically Richard Dawkins, but
Okay,
yeah,
it's not
yes,
like but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not like
yeah,
literal prediction. It's like he made a
yeah, yeah.
he made an artistic thing
I get what you're
that
saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, like it's not like he's sitting there like prophesizing that oh, one day America will be quarantining themselves and isolating themselves and will need to connect to stay together. Like no, he just made a fucking video game and it accidentally somehow certain aspects of it actually happened in real life due to completely different reasons, you know.
Yeah.
um but I found that really amusing that they kind of made that connection on stage and talked about it, and he said that he actually had to rewrite the game because of the pandemic, and it was kind of it was an interesting anecdote to hear.
Hmm.
Yeah.
um I mean, we talked a little bit about fighting games. Tekken 8, are you guys interested in that at all?
It looks really good.
Yeah, I thought
I
they
stopped playing Tekken after 5, but it looks
Yes,
like it's more cinematic, which is kind of cool.
I think five might have been the last Tekken I played as well. But I always enjoyed. I think Tekken was probably my favorite back in the day. But I mean, like I said, I like Delilah. I fell off, so I'm not really up to date on what's going on there. But I
see.
recognize a lot of the characters in it. So
Yeah.
Yeah. See, we're getting a new Tekken, we're getting a new Street Fighter. I'm just sitting here like, where's the next Soul Calibur? Because
Oh yeah.
I might actually want to jump in on the next Soul Calibur. I've always really liked Soul Calibur.
Yeah. Soul
mhm.
Calibur was great.
Um, Baldur's Gate 3, the game that continues to just not come out. Um, that it's finally apparently coming out in August.
Mm.
Um, Jason, are you into Baldur's Gate? I feel like that's
No,
something up your alley.
I've never played Baldur's Gate. I played a little bit of Divinity. Yeah, Divinity is the one. There were like two that
Okay.
came out. Pillars of Eternity. Divinity is the one that like I believe it's actually in the same universe. Um,
I think
but
so, yeah.
yeah, that's a very niche, you know, crowd these days. The CRPG, traditional CRPG
Yeah,
anyway.
well,
Where yeah,
for the one person that in 2022 would bring up Champions of Norath, I'm surprised that like
Champions of North is a Diablo clone. It just takes place in the
yeah, but
EverQuest
you know what I
universe.
mean is
Yeah,
like, you know, a more like a Western RPG. I'm surprised that Baldur's Gate isn't up your alley in some way. Delilah, any hype for Baldur's Gate 3?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, well, that's fine. Um I know there's definitely some hype for another Western RPG though. Jason just said the name of it, Diablo 4, coming out June 6th.
I was surprised that they only showed that CGI trailer, which I mean, that's always
No,
been
they
Blizzard's
didn't.
hallmark. Oh, they didn't. Maybe I got up to P at one point. I
No,
don't know.
they also brought out Halsey.
Oh, well, I don't even know who Halsey is. So like,
She is she's a pop star.
I mean, I get it. She's a singer from because obviously she was singing, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, I you say that name, that means
That's
nothing to me.
typically what singers do, yeah.
When you say the name Halsey to me, I'm thinking Admiral Halsey from the Pacific Theater of World War II. Like that's Jason in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, for that's definitely true. No, she's a pop star, which I found this very strange. Like, why would of all the people to have perform for Diablo, why would you bring out Halsey? I feel
Hmm.
like Mick Gordon would have been a more appropriate choice.
Mm.
Someone involved with like, you know, something more akin to demons and fucking hell, but I mean obviously not Mick Gordon because he's laying low right now.
Yeah.
But you know what you catch my drift. Like Halsey was definitely a weird choice.
Yeah.
Um
I just didn't even get why it was necessary to have anybody sing. Just show the trailer, and then you could
I mean I
replace that
agree.
time with
I know
gameplay.
I think it's because
Yeah,
it was one of the bigger high profile announcements that they had a release date for. So,
right.
but yeah, Diablo 4 coming out June 6th,
Yeah.
6/6. Not a surprise.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
excited for Diablo.
yeah,
I
I
mean, gameplay wise, yes. Everything, all the systems around it, especially considering my recent experience with Overwatch 2, I'm cautiously optimistic.
yeah, I mean, I'm more optimistic about Diablo 4 than I ever would have been about Overwatch.
I'm simply talking about, everybody will say, "Oh, it's just cosmetics." That's what they said
Yeah.
about
Well,
that's what they said
that
about
stuff.
Destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
Um.
And apparently it's been confirmed that D4 will have a battle pass, and I
Yeah.
abhor battle passes.
I do too.
I mean, I think it's just unnecessary. If
Yeah.
you're,
Oh, they
if
find
we're
ways to make it necessary, believe me.
no,
Look,
I know, but I mean, well, who knows? Maybe it'll be one of those cases like the real money auction house in Diablo 3, where fans push back enough about it and have take a big enough issue with it that they remove it.
hope
That did eventually work.
I hope. Well, all I know is that in Destiny, the quote unquote battle pass is literally tied to gameplay mechanics.
Yeah,
And it is
Ugh.
infuriating. Yeah.
yeah. Horizon Forbidden West is getting an expansion.
That's cool.
Burning Shores, April 19th.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wonder what direction they're gonna go with it.
Well,
Well,
we
it's
know.
in Hollywood. We know that.
Yeah, we know it's in Hollywood. I do. Yeah, story wise, from the PlayStation blog article, it says that it takes place after Forbidden West, whereas I feel like Frozen Wilds could kind of fit into
Yeah.
anywhere within Zero Dawn. It's interesting that they're singling this out as taking place after Forbidden West story concludes.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be interesting to see where this goes, and we'll have to gauge and see if it's worth talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've a feeling they might try to do something a little different here. Well, though, without spoiling anything, they might try to build on the ending of the last game, considering
The
Mm-hmm.
the way things left off.
the only interesting and difficult caveat that we're going to have to work around, and maybe some of our listeners will too, is Burning Shores is PS5 only.
Yeah.
It is not
I don't
coming to
know why games are
PS4.
doing this.
I mean, I think it's time.
I think it's time for games. I don't think it's time for DLCs that were, on
Yeah.
PS4.
Maybe it comes down to, with this moving to a different map, maybe they can't, or it would take too much for them to build it out for both platforms. Like, the thing about Zero Dawn was built only for PS4, so Frozen Wilds only had to worry about whether the PS4 could handle it. They developed this game for two different platforms, PS4 and PS5. So, and like, this DLC's development is taking longer than Frozen Wilds did. We're going over a year for this one, whereas Frozen Wilds was released in less than a year after Zero Dawn's release. So maybe it would take them too long to develop for both, so they only developed for the one.
Which is fine. I just feel like Sony's like upgrade system has been so convoluted
Yeah.
and expensive that it makes it harder to just accept it. Like, if people could take like their PS5 save, transfer it to PS5, pop all the trophies, and then just play the DLC once they get a PS5, then and it's like not, it's like not so expensive, then I get it. But for a game like Cyberpunk, which was only available on the PS4 at one point, they're
Mhm.
having a DLC that's only on the PS5.
Yeah.
And I like can't transfer my progress, or maybe I can, but like I can't transfer my trophies, which is really annoying because then I'm gonna get all the trophies for the DLC, but like not for the main game because I have them on PS4 because it was only on PS4 at one point.
Well, can't you do a save transfer for Cyberpunk?
You could do a save transfer, but none of the trophies pop.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if
Wow.
it's going to be the same thing with like Horizon, where if you played it on PS4, but then you get a PS5 to play the DLC
No, the trophies do pop when you transfer your save from
for
Horizon
Horizon.
PS4 to
Okay,
Horizon
that's good
PS5.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that's like one of those that's one of those things where only you and I would really care about it.
Yeah, I guess, but even still, it's like I don't know.
No, I know. I know. I totally get it.
It's like I put so much work on the PS4 version to then be stuck on the PS5 version when I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to play that game again.
Yeah. That's getting me to play Forbidden West again is a tall ask.
Yeah.
Anyway, Remnant from the Ashes is getting a sequel, and it's just called Remnant 2. Did you guys play Remnant from the Ashes?
No.
I heard it was really good.
Yeah. I heard it was
I
like Souls with guns.
yeah, I was just about to say, as much as I hate, again, I talked about it earlier, I hate those comparisons, I hate that term, but Souls with guns is pretty much what I all I ever heard about it.
Yeah.
But it was well liked. It was really well liked. Um, what did you guys think of that Transformers game?
Nah.
No.
Yeah.
I feel like it was like trying to go, yeah, it was kind of a weird direction for Transformers. Transformers Reactivate, it was called.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't terribly into it either. I wasn't sure how you guys felt though.
I fell off with Transformers as an
I,
IP period.
I think there was only
Sorry,
one Transformers game I enjoyed that I felt like really hit the potential of the IP for games. That was the
was that was
War for Cybertron,
oh, I was gonna
Mm.
ask if it was the Platinum Games one that
the
came out.
fighter, the 2D one.
It wasn't 2D, but it had like
Not 2D. I mean like
it had the cartoon
animated.
art
Yeah,
style. It was
yeah.
more like the cartoons.
Devastation, I think it was called.
That sounds right.
I think I bought it, or I might have got it on PS Plus or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I never actually played it. So it's more of a fighting game, from my understanding.
I'm not sure. Sorry to any listeners that are disappointed that we're not into some of these games. And I am skipping a lot because I either don't remember what
Yeah.
they were or they didn't make much of an impression on me, which if I don't remember them, they definitely didn't make much of an
Look,
impression.
anime games tend to suck. Transformers was a cartoon, and that's when it stopped being good.
Hey, not all anime games suck. Some of them are
Okay,
cool.
Naruto Shippuden's like one of the only good ones,
Okay.
and
Um
Budokai Tenkaichi.
yeah. Um Jason, I know you were really into that Warhammer Space Marine 2 game. Are you
Yeah,
still like super excited about that?
they did exactly what they needed to do. They showed a bunch of fucking awesome gameplay of Space Marines tearing, or a Space Marine tearing up fucking an Ultramarine. I know some 40k lore. Um, I think it's the Ultramarine. Yeah, the blue ones. Anyway, tearing up Tyranids. It looked fucking awesome. Can't wait to play it.
Cool,
I
cool.
believe that's a PS5 exclusive also.
Mm.
Um,
Or not
next
PS5 exclusive, like next gen exclusive. I mean,
Mm.
so, but I think it also is coming to PC.
well, yeah, for sure it's coming to PC. I'm not sure if it's next gen exclusive or not, and I
I feel
can't
like there's
find.
like 1,000 Warhammer like expansion thingies coming
Oh,
out this year.
there's a ton. Like I think they had their own showcase just for all the Warhammer games that were coming.
Yeah.
Like they pump out a ton of those games. I mean, Warhammer's a pretty big it's like weird because it's like a really it's I feel like it's a really niche IP, but it's also super big and has a ton of properties that are just constantly coming out and are super popular amongst the people that are into that
Well,
niche.
that's weird. It like I actually did collect and paint the miniatures back in the day. I never
Yeah.
played the actual tabletop game, but I did collect and paint the miniatures. Um, but it is slowly expanded through first the books and then obviously multimedia. You had some games, but the thing is the majority of these Warhammer games that come out are fucking garbage. It's really only a couple,
Mm.
and the original Space Marine was one of them that are actually like really cherished by the fans.
Yeah, and I think like the Vermintide game that just came out was pretty
Yes,
good.
Vermintide.
Yeah.
For Warhammer, if you're into strategy games, there was Dawn of War was a good game.
There was also a Total War game that came out
Yes, for Warhammer,
this
yeah.
year that was actually up for Best Sim slash Strategy. Total War Warhammer 2, I think it was
Hmm.
called. Yeah. So, but yeah, Space Marine 2 looks really cool. I just wanted to bring it up because I know you were super into that.
Yeah, the original one was awesome, and this one looks even cool. It's the Space Marine fantasy, and it's done very well in action gameplay, and it
Yeah.
looks to be doing exactly what the first game did right.
Yeah. Um, this one was so disappointing to me. So the day before the Game Awards, the Crash Bandicoot Twitter account tweeted out, "So what's everyone doing tomorrow?" with like the side eye emoji, And I was like, me and one of my former roommates were like, "Oh man, we're getting a new Crash game! Hell yeah!" I loved Crash 4. I thought Crash 4 was awesome. It was really fucking difficult, and 100%ing it will make you want to spoon your eyeballs out. It's a very frustrating game to 100%, but it was an amazing Crash game. So I was really excited to see we were gonna get a new Crash announcement. Crash Team Rumble ain't it, guys.
No.
I'm
I
pretty
was like, what the fuck is
disappointed.
this shit?
Yeah.
A
How
lot
do
of IPs are doing this. They're just like using the name and creating like spin-offs that are a different
well,
type of game.
so I saw a discussion in I think the Crash subreddit where and it was information coming from a former Activision QA tester. And I take this with a grain of salt. I don't know how true this is, but from what they said, this was actually a game that was in development a long time ago, like after the Insane Trilogy came out and was really popular, and it kind of got like canceled and tabled and shut down until the resurgence because of
Crash 4.
the not just Crash 4, but the
Rumbleverse?
no, the CTR remaster. I can't remember
Oh, Crash
exactly what
Team
it was
Racing. I
called.
got you.
Yeah, Crash Team Racing, Nitro Fueled, Nitro Fueled.
Hmm.
Um, it kind of got revived around then, and I also heard talks of them talking about like if they revived it now, they must have found a way to monetize it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of like the concern where this is just a game that's going to come out to just make more money, and it's not
Yeah.
really going to have a lot of heart and soul put into it, which is a shame because Crash 4, as good as it was, as much as I loved it, it didn't sell very well from what I remember seeing, and it kind of gives me pause for them to potentially be continuing the IP, at least like in a more traditional sense of putting out like a mainline game. If this is what they're gonna do instead, and potentially not follow up Crash 4, which would really disappoint me, really upset me. My hype immediately died as soon as we saw what this was, and
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed. I'm very cautious. I'm
Yep.
not excited about it, and my heart is broken. And that's all I've really got to say about it.
I'm just
Um,
picturing a version of that Michael Jordan meme of him crying, but it's Mark, and then Crash Team Rumble right next to it.
there was some game that has a bunch of actors in it.
Oh, that was
Um,
a funny trailer.
Crime Boss
So,
Rock City.
so when Michael Madsen came out, so I love Michael Madsen. He's obviously, if you're a Tarantino fan,
Yeah.
he was there from the ground floor. He was in Reservoir Dogs all the way through. I mean, the John Travolta's part in Pulp Fiction was written for Michael Madsen.
Mm-hmm.
It's why it's the same name, Vic Vega, Vincent Vega. But when I started seeing all these other famous actors after he came out, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I saw what the actual game was. I'm like, this is very clearly supposed to be a '90s indie movie. Like it's basically like they're trying to make a Tarantino game. That's what it seems like to me, at least with the vibe I was getting, and all those different names that were in there. I just don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is being published by 505 Games and developed by In-Game Studios in partnership with Epic. It's a cooperative, organized crime first-person shooter set in '90s Florida. Um, I didn't really feel that much for it, but it was just the fact that it had Michael Madsen come out, and I think it had a bunch of other big name actors.
Fucking Vanilla Ice. I
Oh
died.
yeah, Vanilla Ice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
they had. Oh my god, I can't even remember.
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris was in there. What's his name? He was Predator 2. Um, God damn, why can't I remember his name?
It was so many.
Yeah, there was
and
so
and
many.
and keep and another thing that I'll say about this is like this was toward obviously I've been going down the list from start of the show to the end of the show. This is very much towards the end of the show. I was getting tired. not quite remembering, or I kind of wasn't paying as much attention to certain things toward the end. You're thinking of Danny Glover.
Danny Glover, thank
Yeah.
you.
Danny Glover was in there. Yeah, what a weird thing. And Michael Madsen coming out was that man's getting old.
He is.
He's definitely showing his age a little bit.
He is, yeah.
We got a new look at the Cyberpunk DLC Phantom Liberty, and it's gonna have Idris Elba in it. That might sell me on actually playing Cyberpunk. I love Idris Elba.
Keanu Reeves wasn't enough for you?
No, Idris Elba's actually, I don't know. The two of them, I feel together, that's gonna sell me on something.
Yeah.
Jason, how did you feel about?
I still haven't played. I played like an hour of Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
I felt like I was fundamentally missold on what the game was going to be.
Mm.
yeah. I think that's definitely a way to view that product for sure.
I think what's a shame about this is that The Witcher had so many brawlic expansions that were free, and this game had like bad juju next to it, and they're like charging for this
Well,
DLC.
I think the two expansions that Witcher 3 had did cost something, but they weren't expensive. I don't know how much Phantom Liberty is, but Blood and Wine and Heart of Stone,
I
Something
think
like that.
I think Heart of Stone was very cheap because it was. I think it was, if I
I
remember
think
correctly, it was smaller than Blood and Wine. Blood and Wine was like a whole
I
new
mean,
area.
from what I remember hearing from my friends that were really into Witcher, like they were both like not like they were both pretty cheap, like maybe $20 each,
Yeah,
but
no,
they were both huge.
Like their own games, kind
Yeah,
of.
practically their own games.
Yeah.
Which I respect a lot for that game. It's but for Cyberpunk had a much more tumultuous story than Witcher 3
Right.
did.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So I definitely I'm looking forward to playing that game eventually and experiencing this DLC. I don't know that eventually has become now yet.
Yeah, now with
yeah.
all these games coming out.
Yeah. Like, oh, I don't know that I don't remember who I said this to. I don't think it was on the show, but I'm much more likely to play the new generation version of Witcher 3 before I touch Cyberpunk.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
especially because I just saw a review, I think from VGC. Witcher 3's next gen version is the best way to play that game. It's very, very good, apparently.
Hmm.
So I'm looking forward to giving that a shot eventually. Okay, last two big announcements. I'm sorry, guys. Neither of you were correct. We did not get Elden Ring DLC. Instead, From Software is developing Armored Core 6. Did anyone see this coming?
I
No.
actually didn't predict it before the show, but the minute that I saw them show like the like industrial environment
Oh,
mixed
yeah.
with like the colorful sky, I was like, this is Armored Core.
As soon as I
Because it was like
saw
the sky of like Elden Ring, like that kind of color palette, but with like the industrial stuff.
Yeah, like,
And they
as soon as I saw
also
the mech, I was like, "Oh, shit, they're actually doing it. It's
the
an Armored
text
Core game."
the text was also somewhat of a giveaway. At first, I was
Yeah.
confused, but then the text said something about out of fallen ash. It was like a very Dark Soulsy type
Yeah.
text, and I was like, "Oh, it's from so. Oh, they're fucking with us." And then it was Armored Core, which hey, I'm there for it.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. It's apparently coming next year. I don't know how the hell they're
I
doing
know,
that, but
right? That trailer was fantastic. It was very like Blade Runner Dune kind of vibes. Um and I'm just so excited to see what they can do with that IP after like everything that they've done over the years.
yeah.
Because I've never been an Armor Core game. It was too hard for me, to be honest, when I played them when I was younger. And because it had a lot of systems, and the same thing happened to me with Demon Souls and Dark Souls, but I eventually went back to those games and beat them. So I feel like this is like going to be my motivation to go back and like actually beat the older Armored Core games. But every time I've tried to, they just don't age well. So I wonder if
Mm.
they're gonna like do like a remaster like they did with the Dark Souls trilogy.
Yeah, I kind of wonder because the last Armored Core game, I'm looking this up now because I actually was I'm not terribly familiar with the series. And I mean, kind of for good reason, that hasn't gotten an entry since 2013
Yeah.
with Armored Core Verdict Day, which was a direct sequel to Armored Core 5, and that game came out in 2012. So yeah, like this has kind of been a series that's been dormant for a while, I guess, following From Software's like sudden success in 2011 with Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1 was 2011, right? I'm not misremembering that, am I?
That sounds right, but I
It
don't
sounds,
remember off
yeah.
the top of my head.
Yeah, 2011. So
Because
yeah,
Demon Souls was like within a year or
that was
two of the
that was
PS3 coming.
2008. That was
Yeah, that was
2008.
yeah, that sounds right.
So yeah, like Dark Souls kind of bringing From Software into a huge mainstream success with Dark Souls. Um, no surprise that Armored Core kind of took a back seat for the longest time, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they tackle the legacy of the series, if they bring any forward, how they bring them forward, and how this one shapes out next year.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
But I am sorry to say, guys, no Elden Ring DLC. How you feeling about that?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, he did say that there is I think he said there's more Elden Ring to come, actually. So for me that was like, maybe I should get a point for that.
Oh no,
I know. It's
yeah.
like
I
stretching.
I did say I pointed out to you guys, like, ahead of the Game Awards, they did announce the Coliseum DLC, which
Yeah.
was really like more than anything, it was just a free update that allowed the Coliseums to be accessible for PvP content. Um, I did feel that with them announcing that ahead of the Game Awards, that told me that there wasn't going to be DLC announced, but
Yeah.
you two weren't the only ones to stand true or stay steady with that prediction. Like, a lot of people still expected it. Jason Schreier even said that he kind of felt that there was still going to be a DLC announcement. I think
Yeah.
everyone was kind of surprised that there wasn't, given the success of Elden Ring. But
I'm honestly
yeah,
not terribly disappointed because just to know that From Software has something in the works, and especially with the rumors
yeah. I
kicking
mean,
about that they're going to try to split from Bandai Namco and become their own publisher, that could be interesting.
and we'll also say that there's no way with Armored Core 6 coming out next year, there's no way that was developed by the same team internally. They had two teams. One, at the very least, they split off the team that was working on Elden Ring. Half of it was working on finishing and polishing that game, and the other half was starting work on Armored Core.
Yeah,
Right.
I believe the director for Armored Core 6 is the director that did Sekiro, which wasn't Miyazaki. I feel like it was someone else. I can't remember his name. And then, so I imagine like Miyazaki is like spearheading one team, and then this other director spearheading another team.
Yeah, this isn't the first time that they've done something like that.
Yeah.
So the director of Armored Core 6 is Masaru Yamamura, who was one of the designers on Sekiro. The director of Sekiro was still Miyazaki
Okay.
alongside Kazuhiro Hamatani, sorry. Um so I'm not sure what else Yamamura has done in terms of, I mean, we can look at Elden Ring and see if he's got any major credits or they have any major credits. Nothing that I'm seeing, but
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, I have to imagine with this game, Elden Ring coming out this year, this game coming out next year, I can't imagine it was the exact same team working on both. Like, they absolutely pulled like a Naughty Dog working on Uncharted 3 and The Last of Us at the same time. They had to have done that with this.
Yeah.
um I just I can't imagine it was the same team and they're pumping out this game in less than 2 years.
Yeah.
We got one more game to talk about, and it's the one that ended it all.
The sole reason I was watching these fucking, well, actually
Yeah,
not the sole reason, it's also because we were going to do an episode, but
Well,
yeah.
before that, there was just one game I wanted to make mention
Oh
of.
yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Earthblade, which is made by the same developers that did
uh,
Celeste.
hmm.
That
Oh
seems really
yeah.
exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not coming out till 2024, but like it's kind of nice to see that team working on
Now
something else.
Celeste did not actually have combat in it, right?
Uh No, it was more like avoiding things, like
Right.
3D, a 2D platforming.
Yeah, it was a really it's basically a really challenging platformer from what
Right.
I know
It
of
is,
Celeste.
yeah. But
Yeah.
with a lot of accessibility that someone who sucks at platformers like me could platinum it.
I will tell you that having not played Celeste but heard its praises and seeing this trailer, I liked the music. I liked the look of it. Um,
Yeah.
so
Celeste is another one of those games that's on my I really need to play this list.
right.
And
You could
this
do that in like a day.
Yeah, you know, I I feel like it's a pride thing where I know how that game's plat. This is just trophy talk again. That game's plat is a 10 out of 10 if you don't use the accessibility features, but if you
Yeah.
do, it becomes like a 1 out of 10. But I'm sitting there looking at it like, do I try to do it
I think it's
legit?
worth like playing the game legit, but not going for like all the strawberries and stuff like that.
Okay, then
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, at some point, no matter what, I'm gonna eventually play it because it's one of those games that I've heard too many good things about, and it seems to be a very important game for when it comes to like mental health
Yeah.
struggles, and it's a very inclusive game. It's a very important game to marginalized communities, especially the LGBTQ crowd. So it's a game that I definitely have on my radar, and definitely a game that I want to get around to playing. I just haven't found the time to do so.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for shouting out Earthblade. That is definitely a game I should have brought up. It definitely looks different than Celeste in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, and I'm also really surprised. I feel like this is the only game. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's plenty of games that were announced that aren't coming out next year. They're coming out in 2024. But this is the only one that I can recall that explicitly stated 2024,
Yeah.
which I
Yep.
found to be surprising, especially because Celeste came out in 2018. It did get an expansion, I think in 2020. Um, but still, it's Celeste. Celeste has been out for a long time. I'm surprised that this game isn't coming out until 2024. But I know
Yeah.
it's a smaller team. It's a very small indie team that worked on Celeste and will be working on this game. So I guess it's not too much of a shock.
Yes.
All right, we got to talk about the best game in show, the one to end it all.
And
Final Fantasy 16.
props to Yoshi P for being the only Japanese guy there that bothered to learn enough that bothered to learn enough English to actually, announce his game.
Yeah. Um I can't articulate how excited I am for this game. I am so this is my most anticipated game. It's Jason's most anticipated game. I am so looking forward to this game. Um and yeah, it's coming out June 22nd and I can't fucking wait.
It's actually
The
interesting how much, even going before this trailer, how much is actually out there that Square has posted in terms of like the actual lore and explanation behind things that
Yeah.
I have just not actively sought out. And even knowing that they're there, you know me, I read every leak and whatever that it comes across my desk. I don't want to know. I want to know as little about this as possible, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And Yoshi P, I trust.
And I would almost say this trailer came dangerously close to showing too much of the plot, I felt.
Yeah,
And I'm
I get
kind
what
of
you're saying.
hoping that like I almost felt like Endwalker almost did that too, but at the same time we got to Endwalker and everything we thought we knew was totally wrong.
Right.
Endwalker subverted our expectations, or at least my expectations, so well to the point where every theory, every rumor, every thought, everyone that thought they knew how the story was going to go couldn't have been further from the truth. And that's kind of how I'm hoping they're presenting these trailers, trying to make us think one way where it's actually going to be something totally unexpected.
Hmm.
I'm very much looking forward to how this all plays out.
I do find it really cool that, and this was, I think this came from the Square site after the fact when they posted the trailer up there
Yeah.
officially. Apparently, the dog is like the healing mechanic.
Hmm.
Your dog companion who's
Oh,
with you the entire time,
I mean, I know you
and
can
you can
give
do like
him.
combos with him.
Yeah, you can give him orders and stuff. You can tell them to sick enemies and stuff. It's very exciting. This trailer did kind of show and kind of confirm more that you will have party members fighting alongside you, even though they kind of somewhat confirmed that before. Um, I really liked a lot of the character dynamics that they showed in this trailer, particularly between Clive and Jill. Um, yeah, I'm just really excited for this game, guys.
They're gonna
Yeah.
have like sex, right? Like it's
Yeah,
gonna be that mature.
there's apparently some really risque shit going on in this game.
It does.
Yeah,
It has gotten an M rating. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it
I think
so
for
this
gore and sex, yeah.
it's so this is the first final mainline it's not the first Final Fantasy game to get an M rating, but it is the first mainline numbered entry to receive an M rating. Previous M rated Final Fantasy games were Type 0 HD and Stranger of
Right.
Paradise. And
Right.
like Stranger of Paradise was mostly because like Jack said,
Cursing.
yeah, Jack just said fuck a lot, and
Yeah.
like that was warranted for an M rating because of course it was. But hold on, I'm trying
Well, at
the
least now, like people won't need to create like these like fan fiction. I mean, they probably will anyway, but maybe they'll get something more out of the game itself.
yeah, yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to find the trailer that has the ESRB explanation at the front of it. Um, okay,
Like I'm
it's rated.
personally a prude. Okay, go ahead. I was just filling the dead
No,
air.
go. I wanna hear that thought.
No, I was just gonna say I'm personally a prude, so I don't really like care for that stuff. But I think it's
uh,
interesting for Final Fantasy as a series that
yeah.
they're going
So
this direction.
yeah.
Well,
So the
I'm
ES.
curious because isn't Jill like a little? Isn't Jill around the same age as Joshua? The like
I think
young
Jill is
her.
close. I think she's intended to be in between Joshua and Clive's age. I'm not 100%
Okay.
sure, but
Because when
um
Delilah said that they're going to be a love interest, I'm like, isn't she like way younger than
well,
him?
we don't
Hmm.
know that they're going to be a love interests. They might be. There might have been a scene that showed them potentially.
She's definitely going to be like the main, I think, recurring
It's
sidekick. I think.
well, yeah, probably, but because she's one of the characters that's been marketed most since the start, alongside Clive and Joshua. But
Well,
like,
interesting. We saw like a lot of her just in kind of that peaceful not pre-story, but like early story times, and
yeah,
a lot of people had theorized that she would come back a lot during the story, and that turned out, I guess, to be true from this trailer at
yeah.
least.
I I just I don't know what to expect in terms of romance because this is a very different team. This isn't like the team that made Final Fantasies like 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. This is the team that made things like Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy games that, or not just Final Fantasy games, because Tactics Ogre is its own franchise, but games that focused much more on the politics and the world, the kingdoms, and all that stuff versus any interpersonal relationships, any romantic ones.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how things
Yeah,
progress.
I wouldn't be surprised if there really isn't much of a romance, if at
Yeah.
all.
I'm not, or I'm at the very least, I'm not anticipating it being a primary theme, a primary focus. Might be secondary or even tertiary.
Hmm.
Um, this game is rated M for mature for violence, blood and gore, sexual themes, partial nudity, and strong language. By the way,
Oh, okay.
and I think the Brazilian rating um called out certain things like prostitution and hate
Mm.
crimes.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes more sense
because
now.
there is like it's meant to be it's going to be more political than other there will be things like
It's
slavery and
I mean
yeah.
it's the like I said, it's the people, it's a lot of the creatives behind things like Tactics Over, Final Fantasy Tactics, and Final Fantasy 12. So
They're less
you're
adventurous, more, I guess you could say, dark stories.
yes, yeah, for sure. And for a lot of reasons like that, is why I'm looking forward to this game so much. It's also weirdly making me really want to pick up and go through the Devil May Cry games.
Yeah.
Because they have Devil May Cry 5's combat director involved with this one, and I've had my eye on that series for a while. It's just, they're 5 games in. It's a little intimidating to go through. Plus, they're
Yeah.
supposed to be very difficult games. So we'll see if I get up to the challenge before Final Fantasy 16 comes out. But I'm yeah, what a way to end. That was the most hype announcement I could have possibly seen. I'm very excited. Collector's edition goes live in less than an hour. Good luck to everyone that tried to get it. I'm gonna try to get it. If it's anything like Endwalker, it's gonna go fast,
Yeah.
and by the time you're listening, it'll be too late. So hopefully you got it. And yeah, that was the Game Awards, guys. We did it.
Yeah.
Do I get
That's
half a point for getting the month right?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. So Delilah, so we did 5 predictions each.
I don't think any of mine.
No. So Delilah is the only one of us to definitively get 0 points.
Let's
Delilah's
go.
predictions were Kojima shows trailer for Overdose, Elden Ring DLC, Alan Wake 2 gameplay, Resident Evil 4 remake demo drop, and Wonder Woman trailer for the Wonder Woman game that was announced last year. None of those happened.
No.
For me, I said Kojima shows 2 games, Overdose and Death Stranding sequel. And then I said Hellblade 2 gets a fall 2023 release window. Another Star Wars game besides Jedi Survivor shown, a larger reveal of the Indiana Jones game, and release dates for both Starfield and Redfall. The only thing that happened was Death Stranding sequel, but I did say Overdose and Death Stranding. Do I get half a point or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, half a point. And then Jason said Elden Ring DLC, Halo Infinite, Battle Royale announcement, Overwatch 2 PvE trailer, and Obsidian shows something about Avowed or Xbox shows Avowed or Fable.
I was basically like, Xbox has to fucking show something.
Which so was I for most of the part. The only thing that Jason potentially gets is he says there was going to be a Final Fantasy 16 live demo and June release date. He did get a June release date, but no live demo. So again, half a point. I still think overall Delilah wins just on account of getting all but one of her winner predictions right.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I concur.
And
Delilah wins.
Yay, finally.
But yeah, I would have talked about our announcement prediction sooner if there was more to talk about. We really missed the mark, and a lot of that has to do with Xbox just being a no-show. So
Yeah.
pretty disappointing on that front, but we'll see what happens. There's a lot going on with Xbox right now, so we shall see.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's time to wrap this up. This has been a long and fun episode of Reap the Spoils.
Yes.
Bit of a different one that we look forward to every year. I said it before, but Delilah, what's our next game? What game are we talking about?
Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 3 different clauses that you could just put in any order, and
Yeah.
that's what you get. Yeah, we're talking about Crisis Core. Jason, I'm so excited.
I feel like it's like Aragorn talking to Sauron in the Palantir. Long have you hunted me, long have I eluded you.
That was just a bunch of nonsense you just said to me. But
basically, I've been avoiding playing this game since it came out. Yes.
I know. So look forward to that in the coming weeks. I hope you enjoyed this episode once again. If you are a regular Reap the Spoils listener, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the episode, share the show with whoever you know that would like it. Please, it helps so much. You can follow me on Twitter at Nibelheimi, and you can follow Delilah on Twitter at Assassina_San, and you can follow Jason on Twitter at SolidQuaz, but don't follow
Or
him.
you can follow me in your heart. I would appreciate it more.
Oh, that's very sweet. It's very nice. And yeah, until next time, join us for Crisis Core in a couple weeks. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
Have a good one.